Let's get it, man. Salute to the people. Let's get it.
The blacks getting
Hit that like button, man, for the early morning show. We ain't gonna waste no time, man. We're gonna dive right into the conversation, man. So if you're rocking with the king, you already know what to do. Blessing. Shout out to my people that's really been rocking with me, man. You know, the real people, the solid people that's been rocking with me, not these people who want to follow other people and go off of what they say. Salute to the people that's been rocking with me, man. Take my hat off. You guys are highly appreciated, man. And I want to say this too. The video that I did about Blue Devil got demonetized, right? I don't know how it got demonetized. You know, YouTube said it wasn't suitable for advertisers, so I took it down. And a lot of times when you leave videos up that's not suitable for advertisers, they'll come later on, they'll come back and give you a strike. That's what happened on my main channel before it got terminated. You know, people was reporting the channel. And so what I did was the stream that I did on Blue Devil, I just took it down because this is what they did first. First, it had limited ads on it, right? And then the next day it said no ad revenue. So you learn from your mistakes. I said, well, eventually they're going to strike it. So let me just take it down. The video, the other live stream that I did 2 days ago about the Canoga Park gang, the NK gang, right? Same thing. First it said limited ads. Then the next day it said no ads. Then I get an email. The email says the video ain't suitable for advertisers. So I'm like, you know what? Let me just take it down. So um the other live stream. Matter of fact, I did 3 live streams. I did a live stream about the black towns that white people turned into lakes. You know the story I did. I did a stream about the all these black towns that were once thriving black towns, and white people turned them into lakes. They did the same thing with that stream. It said limited ad revenue. Then the next day it said no ad revenue. Then you get an email. I get an email saying this stream is not suitable for advertisers. So I had to take 3 of my live streams down within the last 5 days. I'm gonna say it again. I had to take down 3 of my live streams within the last 5 days. So that's what's going on with the channel, y'all. You know, I think somebody been reporting my videos because I've been getting a lot of yellow stickers, yellow stickers just left and right. So it's just like, damn, bro. But anyway, man, we gonna push through it. Check out that live stream that I did yesterday about the Mexican population growing in the southeastern region of the country, like Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Georgia, Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina. And make sure that you guys get over there and hype that video, man, because one of my subscribers hit me up on the email. He said, Red, man, them streams deserve way more views. I said, this it's 2 things that's going on. Cause he's like, man, a lot of content you be dropping is hot. A lot of these dudes just be, a lot of these dudes react to just a bunch of TikTok compilations and they barely talk in their videos. And FBA people be over there supporting that weak stuff. I said, well, they pick and choose, bro. It's not based on who has talent versus who don't. It just depends on if they like what you're saying or not, right? So what I need you guys to do is the live stream that I made yesterday. Take your ass over there. Go over there and make sure that you hit that hype button, man, because that live stream should have way more than 1,300 views. That's just downright ridiculous. It's too much knowledge and too much information in that live stream for it to only have 1,300 views. That's a clear indication that you got people hating on your platform, and then YouTube been playing with my channel too, putting yellow stickers on damn near, how could I say this? A lot of my live streams as of lately been getting those yellow stickers. So somebody's been reporting my channel. So I got YouTube slowing me down in the algorithm. Then I got people within the community that's pretty much hating on the content because they don't like my opinion on certain things. So they tell people to not support my platform. But anyway, hit the like button if you haven't already. We finna dive into this conversation about reparations. Two Mexican OGs speak on foundation of Black Americans receiving reparations, and we're finna dive right into the conversation. And I'm gonna say this before we get into that. When they say California used to be Mexico, right? California was Mexico for 27 years. From 1821 to 1848, Cali was Mexico. That's only 27 years. Texas, let's speak about the state of Texas. Texas was Mexico from 1821 to 1836. Keep in mind, let me say it again. California was Mexico from 1821 to 1848. That's only 27 years. Texas was Mexico from 1821 to 1836. So Texas only had 15 years. California had 27 years. So when they say California was Mexico, they make it seem like it was just the land was theirs, like, and they only owned it for 27 years. And California was sold to the white man. Texas was sold and purchased by the white man. Well, Mexicans sold it. They sold Texas and California. And it's the honest to God truth. But anyway, man, we're going to talk about history, a lot of history in this live stream. What a lot of people don't know. A Black man created the traffic light, right? A lot of people don't know that. And we're going to get into some deep history on this one. A Black man created the traffic light. A Black man did the first blood transfusion. A Black man did the first open heart surgery. A Black man created the gas mask. Foundational Black Americans built the White House. If you give a country 300 plus years of free labor, we built the country. The reason why we say we built the country, because it's true. Prior to the transatlantic slave trade, this country had nothing. Slavery built America's wealth. Slavery built this country's economy. The United States of America became a powerhouse because of the free labor and the countless inventions that they got from us. So America's wealth came from the slave trade. A lot of these banks were started with slave money. A lot of these corporations and institutions in this a lot of these corporations and institutions in this country was built with slave money. Study the history of Wells Fargo. It's going to trace back to slavery. Study the history of a lot of these institutions and corporations. You're going to find out that it was financed with slave money. So if you want to hear the truth, you're in the right damn place. Bless the like button. It ain't nothing. It is what it is. Slave money built this country's economy. The United States became wealthy because of slavery, the free labor that we gave them for well over 300 plus years. Who built the White House? Foundational Black Americans built the White House brick by brick. But a lot of these people, they don't understand our contributions because they don't know enough about history to even really have the conversation. You got to study history to even understand this conversation. Out of the 40-something founders of Los Angeles, half of them were Black. We're going to get into that too. A lot of your founders, it was 40-something people that founded the city of Los Angeles, and half of those people were of African or Negro or Black descent, however you want to call it, right? However you want to label it, I'll put it like that. But California was Mexico for only 27 years, from 1821 to 1848. That's some history for your ass. Anyway, let's get into the conversation about reparations. And guess what? Who's been stumping hard about illegal immigration longer than me and being consistent with it? Not too many people. What you have is a bunch of Johnny-come-latelys. It's crazy, homie. I've been on the front line with this reparation and immigration conversation. I've been doing this way longer than these dudes that you see now. A lot of these dudes don't even live around immigrants, don't know nothing about how the borders work. I do, because I'm from Los Angeles, California. So I am one of the most qualified guys to speak on this subject. One of the most qualified guys to speak on this subject. I don't make videos about Haitians and this and that. Yes, I made a couple, right? But I'm from Cali. I don't live around Haitians. But I understand illegal immigrations and the attitude of some of these people. I get that. But anyway, man, let's not waste time. Dive into the get your ASS in the comments, and we're gonna have a wonderful show. Hold on one second. All right, here we go. Let's see what these OG Mexicans have to say about reparations and our contribution to this nation. Let's take it from the top. This is what's his name? He's an OG from East LA, man. I'm gonna give him a shout out, man. Cali Style Media, something like that. I want to get his name right. Cali Legends Media, right? He's an OG Mexican from East LA, and his name is Cali Legends Media. He's gonna give his take on reparations and how he feel about the whole situation. Let's get it.
Hello and welcome back to the channel, Cali Legends Media. Once again, before I begin, I want to thank all the new subscribers and welcome them to the channel. Really appreciate you guys signing on. And to all the other subscribers that have been with me a while and have returned to watching the videos, thank you very much. I really appreciate you guys. Okay, so, you know, I haven't done a video in a couple of days, but I thought that I would do one on a subject that was on the forefront right now and has been for quite a while. Hit and miss. But lately, a lot has been going on where the blacks are talking about reparations, and Sonny, I don't think is really trying to promote anything, you know, about this this situation with reparations. But on American Cholo, he did say that he was against it, and he thought that we should all get up and protest these this money that's going to be given to the blacks, because he feels that the Indians and the Mexicans should be compensated first. So
if you fix your mouth to say that you're going to march to stop another group from getting reparations, you are racist. When have you ever seen a black person saying that he's going to get black people to march to stop another group from getting some form of reparations? So when words like that come out of your mouth, you can't say that you're not racist. Did Sonny say he was going to march against reparations for any other group? No. He said he wants to march against us getting reparations. So you can't say that you're not racist when you are willing to march to stop another group from getting their just due. The raza needs to march.
I'm just going to give my opinion, and I'd really like to hear yours in the comment section, because I think it's an important subject. And I'm going to try to do this, just a quick synopsis of the whole situation. Why? Because it would take a long time to really have a complete discussion about this, okay? So what is the reparations that the blacks are asking for? Well, that's money that they feel is owed to them because of the contributions they made to the United States and building the United States, and for the mistreatment of their people. Of course, Mexicans have also been mistreated all the way back from the time of the Aztecs, when the Spaniards came over and enslaved that population, stole their language, stole their religion, And
Yeah, that's true, man. But that's Spain. You got to take that up with Spain. Whites in America didn't strip you of your land and language. You guys sold California and you sold Texas. So if Mexicans are going to speak on reparations, they got to take that up in Mexico with Spain. Now, how come Mexicans never fought for reparations in Mexico? How come they never took it up with Spain? So talking about what happened in Mexico while living in California or the United States of America doesn't make sense. Mexicans and Mexico need to take up the conversation of reparations with Spain.
Basically, raped their women and raped them and did all this stuff to our people. That happened first, okay? I know a lot of blacks believe
that happened in Mexico. It didn't happen in the United States. It happened in Mexico. Straight up and down. We're talking about the United States of America and what we went through on this land. We say the same thing to Africans. What do we tell Africans? If you want reparations, you need to take that fight up in Africa. That ain't got nothing to do with the United States of America. So if Mexicans want to speak about reparations, go to Mexico and take that argument up with Spain. Serious business.
That the blacks were the ones that were the Aztecs and building the pyramids, and they were here first and everything. I don't even want to get into that subject. That's not what I think or nor believe, because the history that I know, they were brought over to this country. Okay,
some of us was born here. Let me be real with you, bro. They only brought only five. Let me say this to Cali Legends Media. Only 5% of African slaves got brought to the United States. Only 5%. So there was already a black population here. Let me say this again, because I know a lot of people don't understand that part of history. Only 5% of African slaves got brought to the United States. Most of your slaves, most of the African slaves got took to Brazil, the Caribbean, and Central and South America. Only 5% of them came here. The United States probably has the lowest percentage of Africans. The lowest percentage of Africans were brought here. Straight up and down.
And enslaved. Okay, they were brought over in ships. And some of their own people that lived there among these black tribes were actually involved in capturing their own people and selling them to the English, to whoever they were going to sell them to. All right, to be brought over for slavery. They knew exactly what their people were going to be used for.
No, they didn't. Africans had no idea what the Europeans were going to do, because slavery in Africa was way different than slavery in the United States of America. Shit, slavery in Brazil wasn't the same as slavery in the United States. It was completely different. So you can't say that they knew. The Africans in Africa had no idea about what was really going on in the United States, because a lot of them never been there. So you can't say that they knew what was going to happen.
So yeah, they were brought over here unjustly. They were done wrong. They were treated poorly. And they made a lot of contributions to building America. Okay, Trump even goes as far as says that they're the ones, their hands is what built America. You know, in the early beginnings, they were the ones building their political buildings and so on and so forth. Now, keep in mind that it was a white man that came along and even started a civil war to free them. Okay.
Okay, the Civil War was between the North and the South, right? The North had factories and warehouses, and they wanted people to work in them. and it was about money. Everything boils down to money. Now in the South, they could work black people for free. They don't have to pay you no dime. They can just work you to death for free, right? The North said, how we gonna make money if slavery is illegal in the North but legal in the South? Then that means that the South will have all the black people working on their plantations for free. We're not going to be able to make money. So they came with a deal. The North said, if you guys help us fight the South in this war, we'll give you freedom. So it was a business. It was business at the end of the day. The North would have never won. The North would have never won that war against the South if it wasn't for the freedmen, black people. They would have never won. The North would have never won that war without the Buffalo Soldiers, without the black men who fought in that war. So at the end of the day, it was about money and business. Nobody freed blacks because they felt sorry for them. It was all about money and business. Let's set the record straight with that. Because prior to the blacks fighting for the North, the South was kicking their ass. The South was tearing the North up in that war. And they said, you know what? If we get these blacks to help us fight against the South, well, how do we get blacks to help us? Well, we're going to tell blacks, if they help us fight this war and we win, we'll give blacks their freedom. So at the end of the day, it was all about money. The North was thinking about the money they could make if they can get blacks to move up north and work for their factories. So nobody freed the slaves because they felt sorry for them. It was business.
But that's neither here nor there. There was still hangings. There was still mistreatment. There was still grapes. A lot of things happened to the blacks. And even up into the 60s and 70s, I remember, because I was part of a minority group just like them that was being treated unfairly by the white people. Okay. They sat the white people up front. They sat us more to the back. They educated us for gardening, farming, agriculture, wood making, stuff like that. And the whites, they would educate to become engineers, lawyers, doctors. You know, they gave them higher education. But the blacks and the Mexicans, we were judged differently and treated differently. Okay. Now,
Mexicans were once classified as white. At one particular time, Mexicans were once legally white. Excuse me, stumble on my words a little bit. Mexicans were legally white at one particular time. The LULAC organization said that Mexicans are, they belong to the Caucasian race. So your civil rights leaders, the LULAC organization, fought for Mexicans to be legally white. So we can't say that Mexicans were treated the same or similar to blacks. No. A lot of Mexicans can pass for white. Some Mexicans are white. So you guys were legally white in the early 1900s at one particular time. So no, you were not treated poorly like black people. Were you treated like white people? No. But you wasn't treated as bad as black people either. Let's set the record straight with that.
I'm going to get back to, I keep mentioning these things that happened to the Mexican people that were here in the United States, both Mexican and Mexican American. If your lineage came from Mexico, you were included in this racism. That's exactly what it was. It was racism, Now look, our government has given money to the Japanese, Chinese that come over to the United States. They give them, I think it was $10,000 to open a business, a store, whatever kind of business. They give them business loans to open up businesses and stuff. Did the same thing with the Indians. I'm not talking about the Native American Indians. I'm talking about the Indians from India. Okay. And, yeah, they would give them money plus their benefits, medical, all of that stuff. Okay. The Native American Indians have been compensated where they get government checks every month. Okay. And they're given land, reparations for them. Okay, Mexicans never had that. Neither have the blacks. Okay, now a lot of people know that California.
Well, blacks fought in every war in this country. Every war in this country, blacks participated, right?
Was once Mexico. It was lost, given.
No, California was Mexico from 1821 to 1848. So, and when Mexico had California, there was no development, there was nothing. California was nothing until America got it, until a white man got it. When Mexicans owned California from 1821 to 1848, there was nothing there. No infrastructure, no money, no economy. So when Mexicans did have California for the 27 years that they had it, there was nothing there. So it was only Mexico for 27 years. Anyway, man, let's move on.
However you want to put it, and it became part of the United States, okay? Some people feel that it was stolen from the Mexican people. I'm not going to get in the argument of what really happened or what happened in my opinion, but nevertheless, they took over, okay? The whites took over this part of Mexico and Texas and all of that area.
Well, it was sold, right? Let's be real about history, buddy. Mexicans sold California and Texas to the white man. It was sold. You made a business deal with the Anglos, with the white man, and you sold it.
You know, Mexicans were pretty much being pushed out. And those that weren't pushed out were not treated very nicely either. Okay.
You guys went to war and lost, and then you sold the land. That's exactly what happened. Now, in Mexico, the Spaniards came and colonized, stripped you of your language, stripped you of your culture. So if Mexicans want reparations, you got to take up that fight with Spain. That has nothing to do with the United States of America.
So I know how the blacks feel about being mistreated and
I don't think he's being disrespectful. He's just misinformed about a lot of things, right? There's certain things about history that he don't know. Like I told you, Cali was Mexico from 1821 to 1848. That's only 27 years. And within that 27 years, nothing in California got built when Mexicans owned it. California became a powerhouse when the white man purchased it, when the white man took over. That's when Cali became a powerhouse. That's when you seen money, infrastructure, and things of that nature. When Mexicans owned Cali, there was nothing there.
And targeted and persecuted, you know, because these are all forms of persecution. Now, look, the way I feel about the blacks getting reparations, do they have it coming? Yeah, they do. I believe they do. And you know what? The way I think about it is, you know, good for them. You know what I mean? If we have that coming, if there's a way for us to make that happen for our people, let's figure that out and not waste time on stopping their action. Let's see if we could get some type of compensation for the.
Now, what he said is, he said, we don't need to hate on the blacks. If they can get it, let them get it. But let's see if we can get it. Now, notice you never heard Mexicans talking about reparations at all until they heard us fighting for it, right? See, we give people the blueprint on certain things. Mexicans was not thinking about reparations until they seen how hard we've been pushing for it, right? Now, all of a sudden, they want to talk about reparations. But like I said, reparations from Mexicans got to come from Spain. And these are Mexicans in Mexico. The Chicano, listen, the Chicano ain't got nothing to do with reparations in Mexico because the Chicano was born in the United States of America. So if Mexicans do get reparations, you got to take that up with Spain. You got to go to Mexico and take it up with Spain. That's what you got to do. Your struggle has nothing to do with the United States of America because what happened to Mexicans happened in Mexico, and Spain is the one that took everything from you.
The things that we were put through, you know, for
Come on, y'all. Y'all got to do better, man, with these likes and stuff, bro. I be giving y'all some of the best content, some of the best heat. I know people are hating. When you think about the quality of content that I give you guys, the views and the amount of likes that we're getting ain't adding up to the quality of the content. This is pure hatred behind the scenes. Quit playing with my platform and show some love and respect to one of the realest in the game. I've been talking about illegal immigration and the anti-blackness that comes from the Mexican community. I've been speaking on that for years. I gave you guys a classic live stream yesterday about how the Latino population is growing all over the South. That was a classic live stream, and it only got 1,300 views. Shame on the damn people.
Spain coming over and enslaving the people, taking their language, taking their religion, burning their history, all of the stuff that happened back then and through the years when the French came over and the different people who came over while we were colonized by the Spanish, which are the white people, the Europeans, okay? Now, do I feel that the blacks deserve it more? No, I think they do deserve it. I think we deserve some reparation too. You know what I mean? I think they were treated more harshly than we were. They weren't hanging us from trees. They weren't doing all the things that they suffered through the years, you know. And even now, even today, I'm not sure. I don't know if it's Missouri or some country in the United States. One of these states is hanging blacks. They're finding blacks hung from trees. You know what I mean? Still happening. You know. Now look, this white man Trump was voted into office. Okay, he spent billions and billions of dollars fighting a war that he promised not to get us into. He promised to lower our food costs, to do all these things for us. You know, not just for us, for all the people of the United States, not just the Mexicans. I'm talking about for us as Americans, okay? And one bomb that they shoot over there at Iran can cost up to 100,000, 500,000, you know, even $1 million for one bomb. Okay, so when you add all of the cost of moving all the machinery, the ships, the men, providing for them and everything, and all the equipment lost, the bases that were hit and blown up, it's cost the United States a large amount of money. On top of that, he was doing what he was doing to the ballroom in the White House. All of this money that he's spending on all these things that I would consider trivial when you're talking about people that are hungry, people that are trying to make it. You know, I'm not saying going hungry, you're not eating nothing, but one thing is eating ribeye.
Now we're gonna give a few more minutes to this. I got some more videos that I'm gonna play. It is what it is. So, like I said, Mexicans need to take up. They need to take that argument up with Spain and Mexico. Because it doesn't make sense for Mexicans to talk about reparations in the United States. The United States don't owe Mexicans anything. If anything, Spain owe reparations to Mexicans in Mexico. Let's go.
And prime rib and Cornish hens and, you know, with all the fixings and another thing's eating beans, rice, chorizo, and Jesus Christ. You know what I mean? There's a big difference. He doesn't know it. And he doesn't feel it. Why? Because he's rich. He's rich. He don't know what it's really like. The homelessness, you know, all the black and Mexican people that are out in the street without homes, some of them with their children. Some of them, yeah, hey, it's their fault. They're messing with them drugs and stuff. Some of them turn to drugs because they're homeless. You know what I'm saying? It's so hard just to rent a house these days. It's so hard. They want to check your credit. You got to make 2 or 3 times more than the rent. You know, all of this stuff. Okay, buying a house is like another struggle. All the things that you're required to have in place to buy yourself a piece of property. Okay. Well, the reason why I bring up all of these things is because there's so much money spent helping Israel, okay, and worried about other people around the world that so much money's even given. I think Obama gave what they say $1 billion.
Yeah, man. So it is what it is. Let's go to the next one. Let's go to Sonny. Let's see what Sonny had to say.
All right, you guys, what's cracking? Buenos dias. So I'm gonna do something a little different, okay? I'm gonna do a little different.
Now, he said his beliefs on reparations isn't race-based. Yes, it is. Anytime you're willing to march to stop another group from getting reparations, you got a lot of feelings about that, right? That has your feelings are involved, right? And then Sonny's reason for saying he's against reparations is because of the taxes that the citizens would have to pay if we got reparations. Sonny, all of these illegals that come from Mexico, most of the illegals come from Mexico. Most illegal immigrants, the majority of them come from Mexico because we share a border with Mexico. So it makes sense why most illegals would come from Mexico when you think about it. Let's use pure logic. You know how much money we spend, the taxpayers spend on funding these illegals that cross the border? We got to give them medical. We got to give them dental. We got to give them housing. So our tax dollars, they're using our tax dollars to fund illegals coming from Mexico. And that's been happening for decades. Maybe for the last 60 years, that's been happening. So if Sonny was against the tax dollars being spent on something that has nothing to do with us, surely he would have a problem with our tax dollars being used to fund these illegals that's coming from Mexico. So it proves how full of crap Sonny actually is. Sonny ain't got a problem with our tax dollars funding illegals coming from Mexico. He ain't got a problem with that, but he got a problem with tax dollars being used to give us reparations when foundational Black Americans built the country, bro. I don't care what you say. If you give a country 300 plus years of free labor with countless inventions, America's money came from slavery. Slave money built the economy in this country. There would be no economy in this country that is this strong if it wasn't for slavery. But you got to know history. You got to understand history to know that. The White House was built by who? Foundational Black Americans. The traffic light that you pull up to all across the world was created and built by who? A Black man. The gas mask was created by who? A Black man. The first open heart surgery by who? A Black man. The first blood transfusion, a Black man, and the list goes on and on.
I watched Damian Porter's video, and he spoke on people that gave him reparations and all these groups that he mentioned, which I know for a fact are not true, but let's just agree to not disagree. To disagree, let's agree to disagree, okay? So I got a list of people that get reparations from the United States. Japanese Americans, they were giving $20,000 tax-free payouts to each of the roughly 82,000 surviving Japanese Americans who were forcibly interned during the World War II. So these are Japanese Americans that were thrown into concentration camps during World War II. So they were giving compensation for that, 20,000, and it was roughly 82,000 Japanese Americans. And then there was Native American tribes. The government has paid billions of dollars to various, keyword, various tribes through the Indian Claims Commission in 1946. Now, when they say various, not all Indian tribes were giving reparations. There was...
Sonny, let's be real. You said you wanted to march and protest to stop us from getting reparations. So that lets me know that you were in your feelings, but you showed us your true feelings. That's all you did. Anytime you're willing to march and protest to stop another group from getting reparations, you got a lot of hatred in your heart, boy. Did you march to stop Japanese and any other group from getting their reparations? Hell, man, the small hats, the Jews, they got reparations, and what happened to them took place in Germany. It didn't even happen on American soil. What happened to the Jews took place in Germany, not even here in America, and they gave these people money. What happened to Mexicans happened in Mexico, and the Spaniards are the ones who did it to Mexicans in Mexico. So my thing is this: if Mexicans want reparations, Mexicans in Mexico need to take that up with Spain. That has nothing to do with the United States. You went to war with the white man and you sold Cali and you sold Texas. End of the story. You lost the war and sold some of your land. And like I said, Cali was Mexico from 1821 to 1848. That's only 27 years, buddy. Prior to 1821, Cali was not Mexico. After 1948, Cali was not Mexico. I'm breaking down some history right here, man.
Specific reasons why certain native tribes were giving reparations. That's because they had creeks, lakes, and other natural resources in which United States still wanted to partake in, so they were given reparations, okay? And that was in 1946. And they paid billions of dollars. But it was not all American Indians. Then radiation victims. There was a radiation victims, apparently the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act in 1990.
Man, they put black people by shipyards with toxic waste. In San Francisco, California, when they let blacks move in these housing projects next to these old Navy bases, there was contamination there, radiation. And unfortunately, a lot of our people caught cancer by living in these conditions, by living in these areas that was next to a toxic wasteland. So we've been through everything, homie. We've been through everything. We've been exposed to radiation, all type of stuff. There was a point in time, like if you go to New Orleans, right, at one particular time, black people couldn't own property or land in certain areas. So you know what they did? They allowed blacks to buy homes in flood zones. I'm gonna say that again. They allowed blacks to buy homes in flood zones, like the Ninth Ward, that's heavily populated with black people right now in New Orleans. That area was known as a flood zone. So white people said, man, we'll let blacks buy homes in this area because if a hurricane hits, which it will eventually, because New Orleans already sits below sea level. So if a big hurricane comes through, it's going to wipe everybody out anyway. So yeah, we'll let blacks buy homes over here because it's a flood zone anyway. Yeah, we'll let blacks move over here in San Francisco, but it's next to a Navy base where there's a lot of waste and radiation and contamination, and a lot of blacks got sick, and a lot of them got diagnosed with cancer from living in these areas because they moved blacks into these areas on purpose. Why? Because it was a wasteland.
So people that downwinders from Ukrainian miners, uranium miners, uranium, not Ukrainian, uranium miners. In the atmosphere, nuclear testing was involved, and it was government testing, weapons testing that caused this. So some people were compensated for this, and it's called a radiation victims. And then there were Iranian hostages, and I remember this very well because I was a kid when it happened. But it was $4.4 million were per hostage, $10 per day of captivity. And this was in 1979. This is when Iran and the United States first got into it, and there was a group of Iranians that were held hostage. Or there were Americans were held hostage by the Iranians. 9/11 victims' families. This government created a September 11th victim compensation fund for people that were affected by.
Let's be real. Whites don't want to give They don't want to pay black people what they owe. I don't want to say give. They don't want to pay what they owe. I'll put it like that, right? The people that once enslaved you don't want to see you win, so they're going to do everything in their power to not give you reparations, even though reparations is a debt that's owed to foundational black Americans by the government. That's real talk. I don't give a damn about Iran or none of that. That's their business. Now, we do know that the United States spends a lot of money on something. They spend a lot of money on things that don't benefit us. We get that.
The 9/11 towers, trade towers, okay? District of Columbia slave owners in 1962. District of Columbia, and I'm going to read this all the way through so there's no misunderstanding. 1962, the District of Columbia emancipated.
See, we know that blacks were reclassified. I spoke on that yesterday, but some of our people are too sensitive to really listen carefully to what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if we were reclassified and we don't get benefits from claiming these tribes today, what's the purpose of claiming these tribes if you don't get nothing for it, right? So you'll be better off fighting as a foundation of black Americans to get reparations for that. Because claiming these tribes that's been compromised and taken over by the Anglo-Europeans a long time ago, it don't benefit you to claim tribes when you get nothing for doing that, right? So moving forward, I think FBA is a good identity. Reparations for foundational black Americans is the movement. Let's get back to it.
Act paid up to $300 per enslaved person directly to loyal Union slaveholders as compensation for the loss of their property when slavery was abolished in Washington, D.C. Now, some slave owners were giving compensation $300 per slave because when the law was abolished, they lost what they perceived as their property. And I was a little shocked at this one, but Damian Porter had pointed this one out, and he was correct about that. But those are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 six organizations or people per se were compensated through reparation. There was no Jews being compensated. There was no Indians being compensated. There were certain tribes. Not all Indians, and not all because they were native. It's because there was still natural resources on those tribal lands. Okay. Now, the next question I was posing was the difference between Native Americans and Black Americans, and what was the problem with reparations, and why some Native Americans, or I personally feel, that if somebody were to be giving reparations, and before I go all the way with that, you need to understand, I do not agree that anybody should be getting reparations, because it would hurt the economy, it would hurt everybody involved. Not just me, not just my family, but everybody that pays taxes. So, with that being said, let's get, if they were just giving out compensation, and I felt who would get it, I would feel personally, natives belong, or Indians belong getting reparations before any other group. My personal feelings doesn't make it true. Doesn't necessarily make it true. So, the first thing you have to understand is, it's hard to say one group was hurt more because the government treated Native Americans and Black Americans in two completely different, terrible ways. Instead of competition, historians look at it two different types.
Well, we're not in competition with nobody. We just want to be compensated because we built this country. But of course, Sonny doesn't understand enough about history to know that. Sonny, the civil rights that your people have is because of us. The civil rights that all minorities have is because of us. Your people come over here and get civil rights based on what we fought for. The labor that we gave the United States is what built the economy. That's how the United States got wealthy. That's how the United States became a powerhouse. They got wealthy off of our labor, Sonny. Black people built the White House. Brick by brick, we built the damn White House. There was no money in this country prior to the transatlantic slave trade. I'm going to say it again. There was no money in this country prior to the transatlantic slave trade. The labor that we gave this country built the economy. That's how the United States got wealthy. That's how the United States became a powerhouse, Sonny. By the time Mexicans started crossing the border, the infrastructure in this country was already built. The foundation was already laid. This is why we call ourselves foundational Black Americans, because we are the foundation of this nation. Prior to us building the country, giving this country 300 plus years of free labor, there was nothing here. There was no money. There was no economy. There was no infrastructure. There was nothing. The work that we put in, the free labor that we gave this country is how the United States got wealthy. If you don't understand that, then maybe you're just too damn slow for the conversation.
Terms. Okay, Native Americans should be getting compensation because they have loss of life, massive loss of life, where they try to.
You know how many blacks died during slavery? You know how many blacks died after slavery? You know how many black people died building this nation, building this country? You know how they use blacks as slaves? Because we were the strongest people. None of these other groups could endure the intensive work and the long hours of work. Nobody could survive that besides us. So we made the best slaves because we could actually work through those conditions and push through it more so than any other race. So that's why blacks made the best slaves. It had a lot to do with our DNA. It had a lot to do with our physical genetic makeup. So if you want slaves, you're going to get the strongest people. You're not going to get small people who can't work through those conditions. You're going to find the strongest people that you can find to build a country. And that's exactly why they used us for it. Because based on our genetics and our makeup and our genetics, we was able to push through conditions that a lot of people couldn't push through. When they went to Puerto Rico, a lot of the people over there were dying off. A lot of the native Indians were dying off as soon as they came in contact with the Europeans, when the Europeans brought sicknesses and disease over. Blacks had the strongest immune systems, which means we can endure conditions that a lot of people couldn't. And that's the reality. So they say, you know what? Black people are the strongest people. Everybody else is dying off. But they could actually survive and withstand a lot of these living conditions that other people can't withstand. So they use us to build a nation because we had the physical capabilities of building a nation. It has a lot to do with our genetics. So if I want somebody to build something, I'm going to find the strongest people that I can find to build something. Your people were small, and I'm not saying this to be disrespectful. The natives were small compared to the black people. The Mexicans were very small compared to the black people. Black people made the best slaves because of our genetic makeup and our physical strength. Millions of black people lost their lives during slavery. Not only were we mistreated, millions of lives were lost in the process when it came to building this nation and building this country.
Exterminate American Indians. And then the fact that
you can't forget about the slaves that died on the ships as well. You got slaves that died on the ships. You got slaves that died when they were working in the field. You got slaves who died because the slave master brutalized them and unalive them for whatever reason. So millions of lives were lost when it comes to us. Mistreatment and millions of lives were lost, buddy. And a long list of other things.
Continent was filled with nothing but natives, so they lost their land to top off their being a.
Those natives that you're talking about, they're not natives. They came from Siberia. They came across the Bering Strait. Now, Sonny, you said, oh, well, that's a theory. Well, everything you're saying is just a theory, homie. What you're saying is a theory. The natives that you're talking about, their DNA goes back to Asia, Northeast Asia, Siberia. Let's set the record straight. The Native Americans are not native to the Americas. They came from Northeast Asia, Siberia, thousands of years ago. I don't know the exact number, but I know it happened a long time ago. The people that you call Native Americans, they're not native to the Americas. They come from Siberia, Northeast Asia. If we want to really take a deep dive in history.
Eradicated by the United States. And then the fact that they lost their culture because they lost their lands and their lives and their elders. So they lost land, life, and culture. Black Americans didn't have it much easier. The goal was to take their labor. The biggest impact of Black Americans was exploitations being used.
Yeah.
Stolen freedom, which means made them slaves. Treated as property. They were not treated as human beings. They were treated as property.
Well, you're right about that, Sonny. You are 100% correct. We were treated like property, not human beings. Not like human beings.
No better than a car. No better than a home. No better than a bottle of water. They were considered as property, which is wrong. And they considered stolen wealth because they were never paid. They could not pass any money down to their kids, which created a massive wealth gap that still exists today.
I can tell that Sonny has read some things lately. Sonny, salute to you for doing some research and studying the history, because I can tell that Sonny read some books lately, or maybe he watched some documentaries, because that's exactly what happened. We were treated like property, not like human beings. The labor, the 300, listen, the 300 plus years of free labor that we gave this country is what built the economy, Sonny. So why don't we deserve reparations when our labor literally built the country? Our labor created the wealth in this country. The United States became a powerhouse based on the free labor that we gave them. You mean to tell me that we don't deserve reparations when our labor is what built the economy in this country? Come on, man, let's deal with reality. Not our feelings, let's deal with reality.
So they have some gripe in this. We're not treated any better. And from my reading, I understand. One was about life and property versus stealing the freedom and future wealth for your family, right?
Man.
And from reading from this, I understand it was two different types of harm, neither which was good, but it shouldn't be a competition. So I will admit to that, right? Native Americans.
It's not a competition. We never said it was a competition. We want to get our just due. That's all it is. We want to be compensated for the fact that our labor built the economy in this country. We want to be compensated for that. Hell no, it's no competition. It's not my fault that you took it like we was trying to make it a competition. That's your perception of it, but that's not the reality, Sonny. We never made it a competition. We just want to be compensated for the work and the free labor that we gave this country. That's it. That's all. Our labor created the economy in this country, 100%. Listen, if you look at this country before they enslaved us and made us do the labor, there was nothing here. There was no wealth in this country. They use our labor to get wealthy. So you damn right they owe us some money.
Were affected because the country wanted them gone. That's it. They wanted Native Americans gone. They wanted Indians gone. Blacks were affected because the country wanted them trapped so they could use their free labor. It's two different things, right? Me personally, I told you, I feel natives had it coming more than any other group. Why
No, they didn't use natives. They didn't use their labor to build this country. They used our labor to build this country. So no, natives don't have it coming more than foundational Black Americans. Our labor is what made this country wealthy, not the natives. We got unallied just like the natives. Our labor is what built the economy. Our labor is what made this country wealthy. It was our labor that made this country wealthy, Sonny, not the labor from the natives, because keep in mind, the natives wasn't strong enough to live in the conditions that they put us through. So they died out because of sickness, diseases. Most of those natives died out because their bodies couldn't take, what our bodies could take. They couldn't endure what we was able to endure as foundational Black Americans. Most of the natives died out because of the diseases that the Europeans brought. Keep in mind, the Europeans brought smallpox, flus, and many other diseases with them. And unfortunately, a lot of natives died off once they came in contact with the European. They died because of those diseases that the Europeans brought over. When the Europeans gave the natives blankets, a lot of those blankets was laced with smallpox. So when the Europeans pretended like they wanted to be cool with them, right? But the Europeans were setting them up for day one. The blankets that they gave the natives had smallpox in it. And as a result of that, a lot of the native population died off. Guess what? They did the same thing to us. We came in contact with the Europeans, and a lot of us got sick because we came in contact with the diseases they brought from Europe. Because keep in mind, in Europe, white people were sleeping with their pigs. They were sleeping with their animals. And there was a dark age going on in Europe around this particular time, like in the 1400s, right? In the 1400s, well, was it the 1400s or the 1500s? There was a dark age, right? And food wasn't growing. Vegetables wasn't growing. The crops wasn't growing. The weather was nasty. So the Europeans were dying off. So they left Europe to conquer new land out of survival. I'm going to say it again. The Europeans had to leave Europe out of survival because their population was dying off. So what they did was they traveled the world to conquer new land because Europeans were on the verge of dying off based on all the plagues, the sicknesses, and the diseases that was going on in Europe at that time. So they left Europe out of desperation. They left Europe out of survival. Unfortunately, when they came to the Americas, they brought their sicknesses, they brought their diseases and their sicknesses with them. And when the natives and Black people came in contact with the Europeans, a lot of people got sick because, like I said, the Europeans were sleeping with their animals. Pigs are not native to the Americas. The Europeans are the ones who brought those pigs with them on those boats. Nobody ate pigs until the Europeans showed up. The Europeans are the ones who introduced pigs to the Americas. And a lot of those pigs were savages. A lot of those pigs were sick. And when people ate that, they got sick. When they came in contact with the Europeans, they got sick. This is a true story, Sonny. Those pigs come from Europe. They come from Europe, brother. Nobody in the Americas ate pigs until the Europeans showed up.
Why Native Americans have strongest case. And I personally went through a bunch of this stuff myself and gave myself notes. Say, if anyone deserves to fix it, it is American natives of the law. The U.S. government signed officials' written promises, treaties, and them to respect their land, and then broke those promises. So essentially, it was a broken contract, a business contract. That's one of the reasons I believe that it should be reparations, right? But I'm going to go back even farther. I don't agree that any group should get reparations. And this is the part that's getting left out when they talk about reparations when I first got confronted about this, right? This is the part everybody leaves or edits out of the conversation.
Nobody edited anything out. You said that you wanted to march and protest to stop our reparations. Anybody who says that is a stone cold racist. You got to have hatred for black people to march and protest against our reparations. You never said anything about protesting and marching to stop another group from getting their reparations, but you said you wanted the raza to march and protest against our reparations.
Now, I don't think it's right that any group, including Native Americans, Indians, get paid out nowadays, because it would crush the country. Economically, we could not handle it, and it would essentially ruin this country, and this country will be done. So what's the purpose of having all this money if you don't have a country? Because the money that they give you would essentially be worthless, because the country is no longer standing. That means the funds are no longer there. So they can give you all the money in the world. It would mean nothing because your country has folded, so the money is no good.
Oh man, this is BS. Don't worry about it. Give us our money and we can do whatever we want to do with the money. Cut the check. That's all we saying. It's not your business to be worried about what we're going to do with the money or if the money's going to have value. That ain't your business. What we're saying is give us reparations in the form of money. Now, we could say land. I would say give us reparations in the form of land and money, a combination of both. That's what I say. Right. But anyway, some people say, nah, give us reparations in cash money. Hey, it is what it is. I'm not knocking it. As long as you compensate my people for the labor, for the free labor that we gave this country, that's all I'm saying.
Now, it would cost heavy taxes, big arguments over who qualifies. Then you have to figure out who's going to qualify.
So that's not your problem to worry about. Foundational Black Americans. We're not talking about all Black people. We're not talking about Africans. We're not talking about Jamaicans or Haitians. We're talking about foundational Black Americans. If you can trace your lineage to the slave trade that took place in this country, then yes, you are a foundational Black American. We're not talking about Black immigrants. We're talking about foundational Black Americans. If your people was on those plantations and you come from a non-immigrant background, and you can trace your family lineage, you can trace your bloodline to the slave plantations, you are a foundational Black American. And yes, you are owed money, reparations, 100%. So that's not your job to be worried about who's going to get it. We already got that part covered, Sonny. We already know who qualifies for reparations versus who don't. So that's not your problem.
How much percentage of Indians you got to have in your blood to receive funds, right? And do your kids get it after that? There's just so many different factors that you can't possibly fathom unless you're really getting into this on what these qualities would take, what it would take to do this. Okay. Now, I'm from the middle ground. I believe returning land, not cash. And the middle ground is returning, I'm sorry, that might be really wrong. Returning the land and not cash is something that's you could look into. Me personally believe that they even need to be cautious with this, because the extract problems you are worried about. Many Native American leaders actually do not want cash checks. A lot of Native Americans and tribe leaders don't want cash. They don't want funds. They want their land back. We all know that's not going to happen. Public land, giving control of empty federal land or other national parks back to the tribe. So what they're suggesting is they give land that's not being used back to an Indian tribes and let them do with what they're going to do. They don't want to take people's private properties. If you bought a home or say, I own a home, right? Just because that's on Indian land doesn't mean that the Indian tribes and the leaders today want to go in and take your home. No, they want federal land that nobody's using. That's just wasting away as far as they're concerned. And they want to do something with it. So that's what their compromise is. And they wanted to be able to run it the way.
I ain't gonna lie, the white man had a master plan, though. He had a master plan, and he turned America into a powerhouse, but they used our labor to do it, Sonny. The white man said, we're gonna create laws in America, and we're gonna use Negroes, black people, to build this land. We're gonna use black people for the labor. We're not gonna do the labor. We're gonna use black people to do it. And that's exactly what happened. But the white man did have a master plan. I got to be real with that. I got to be real and say that. He had a master plan to conquer the land, and he said, you know, we're going to use black people to do all the damn labor. Yeah, and we're going to get wealthy. We're going to turn this country into a powerhouse, and we're going to make the rules, and we're going to be the shot callers. We're going to be the dictators. The European had a master plan. That is a fact, homie. I'm going to be real with you. Without the white man and the labor of black people, this country would be nothing. I'm going to say it again. Without the master plan of the white man and the labor that they used us for, this country would be nothing. So I got to be real. The white man had a plan, and he used foundational black Americans for the labor. And when you think about the matter of fact, I'm going to show y'all something about the things that we invented. Hit the like button, man. It's sad that we got so many FBA people that's hating on me, because I make some of the realest FBA content in this space. You know, I don't be using these weak ass TikTok compilations. I be dropping some real science and some real knowledge about what we done, how our labor was used to turn this country into a powerhouse. So I don't be sitting up here just talking about things that don't make sense. I'm going to show you some black inventions right now. Right? And this is what Sonny said right here. So I don't know why Sonny's pretending like he don't understand why people call him racist, right? Check this out. I forgot to cue this video up right here. I need you guys to get the like button, man. If you're really rocking with the platform, I need you guys to bless that damn like button. Don't play with it. Trying to see where's that video that I had. I thought I queued it, man, but for some reason I don't see it. It's all right. It is all right. I don't see it.
Way they want to run it without any interference from the United States federal government. That, in the eyes of the American Indians, that would fix all their broken promises, their broken treaties. It would help with the economic, because believe it or not, United States American Indians understand that this is their country now. They don't like it, but this is their country, and they don't want it just to fold. They don't want that.
Let's get into some of these black inventions, man. You know, I mentioned some of them, but they're gonna no, that's not true. The black man did not create that. Check this out right here.
Books, but not today. Have you ever sat at a red light and wondered who?
Now, guess what? I'm starting my own movement, man, because like I say, I don't want to shout out to FBA and Tariq Nasheed, but I got a lot of hate coming from this particular community. You know, I've been peeping game and paying attention for a long time. I even had to get rid of some of my moderators who are suckers and sideline haters. So I had to get rid of some of my mods. Critical thinking black men. Listen, you don't have a patriarchy. You don't have a society without the men. So my channel was going to be for critical thinkers, black men who are critical thinkers. We're talking about black Americans. So FBA is cool, right? That's not my movement. That's Tariq Nasheed's movement. And I don't have a problem with Tariq Nasheed. I got a problem with a lot of the suckers who call themselves FBA, who are male feminists And I got to call out the female feminists. We got a lot of male feminists in that movement, and they don't like me. They don't like me because I call a lot of that stuff out. But guess what? At the end of the day, I ride for black people all day. People in the FBA movement don't like me because of my opinion on the women. That's why they don't show up to support my platform. That's why they run around telling people to not support. Man, we need to cancel Red. That got to be some of the most, like, you got to be a rainbow community member to even talk like that. We need to cancel this person. We got a lot of male feminists running around calling themselves FBA. A lot of weak beta male feminists who can't correct their own women, and they get mad at me because I choose to correct the women when they deserve correction. So I got my own movement, homie. If you a critical thinking black man, if you a masculine black man that's a critical thinker, tap in with me. I got something going on, because like I said, I can't be attached to, I don't want to align myself with a bunch of these male feminists who claim black power, but they're too weak to correct the women in their own group. I can't get down with that. Them dudes are suckers, man. Anyway, I'm going to get into this video right here, and we're going to talk about some of the things that black people created in this country. We're going to talk about our contribution to this country as black Americans. Hit the like button if you haven't already.
Actually came up with this thing, or felt safe at home thanks to a secure.
Yeah, man, a lot of them dudes are male feminists, homie. They are male feminists. Like I said, FBA is cool, but I got a problem with some of the people in the group. I don't have a problem with Tariq Nasheed. I don't like the marks and male feminists who claim to be FBA that make content on this platform, who are too weak to correct their own women. I can't get down with that. I can't rock with it. Hit the like button.
Security system and thought, who invented this? Well, here's the truth. Some of the world's most life-changing inventions were created by black innovators, but their stories are rarely told. Welcome to Black Dollar and Culture, where we celebrate the brilliance, creativity, and impact of black inventors who shape the world in ways you might not even realize. These are the stories that often get left out of textbooks, but not here. Today, we're starting a brand new series, the Top 100 Inventions by Black Innovators. And in this episode, we're kicking things off with 10 inventions that change the way we live, work, and stay safe every single day. Before we get into these untold stories of black excellence,
we're finna get into some of the things that black Americans created. And a lot of people don't understand or know that we created these things, but they use these things every damn day. Hit the like button and support the show. If you want to respect black men who are masculine, critical thinkers, tap in with me for my movement, because guess what? Shout out to Tariq Nasheed, but FBA is his movement. And unfortunately, you got a lot of beta males and male feminists, and they're not masculine men. They never take the time to talk about feminism and how feminism has affected the community. Feminism is a part of white supremacy. How you going to talk about white supremacy but never address feminism? Because they're male feminists. They're too afraid to correct female behavior. I'm not saying they got to put down the women and talk about them, but at what point do you address feminism when we know feminism is a symptom of white supremacy? I'm going to say it again. Feminism is a symptom of white supremacy, and we all know that a lot of our women embraced feminism back in the 70s. Still to this day, a lot of our women are infected. A lot of our women have been affected by feminism because they took on this mindset. But none of these guys ever talk about feminism. They pretend like it's not a problem in the world. Let me tell you something, black people. They say, why are you going to air out our dirty laundry? Listen, in the black community right now, we have the least marriages with the most divorces. So we have the least marriages, but the most divorces. And these beta males who claim to be foundational black Americans, they choose to ignore that because they're too weak. They're too afraid to correct female behavior. All I'm saying is this. I'm not saying that black men are innocent. When it's time for black men to get checked, when it's time to correct black men, I ain't got a problem doing that either. We have the least marriages, but we file for divorce. Well, the women file for divorce. Nobody files for divorce at a higher rate than women. So at this particular point, black women are the least married, but they file for divorce at the highest rate. That's feminism. How come none of these brothers in the FBA community ever take time to address that? Because they're too afraid of the women. That's why they won't address it. We can't afford to ignore that. If you don't have a family, you don't have a community. And if you don't have a community, your birth rates go down. Another group comes in to replace you. Look at what's going on in the South. Latinos are the fastest growing group in the South. So if blacks are not getting married, that means they're not having families. And if you don't have a family, if you don't have families, you don't have a community. All you suckers who claim to be pro-black never talk about something that affects us in a major way. How are you going to sit up there and ignore that? Black women are the least married, but they file for divorce at the highest rate. Why is that? That comes from feminism. How you going to say you love the black community, but you refuse to address something that affects us in a negative way? If the black woman can't get along with her man, then there will be no families. If she's the least married, but filed for divorce at the highest rate, well, we got a major problem on our hand. Oh, there's gender war content. There's no such thing as no damn gender war. Women are not fit or equipped to go to war with men. There's no such thing as a gender war. There's facts and there's fiction. There's something called facts and there's another thing called fiction. When women embraced feminism, that was the downfall of marriage. That was the downfall of families. Go look at the marriage rates in the black community prior to black women embracing feminism. The marriage rates were pretty high. We had a lot of kids. Now look at the marriage rates after black women embraced feminism. Marriages went down. The birth rates went down. What you started to see was sexually liberated women, women who were educated, who claim to be sexually liberated, and now they're having less children. They're having less children with no damn husband in the home. Feminism gave birth to single motherhood in our community, but these so-called conscious brothers who claim to be for the black community never take the time to address the fact that feminism is a symptom of white supremacy. Feminism destroyed the black families. Prior to black women embracing feminism, go look at the marriage rates prior to black women embracing feminism. Go look at the birth rates, go look at the marriage rates. Then, whenever you get time, go look at the birth rates when black women embrace feminism. They drop. You had less families, no men in the home for the most part, although you still had men in the home. But what you started to see was women claiming to be independent, women who felt like they didn't need no man. So guess what? If you don't have families, you don't have a community. There's no such thing as a black community. What you have now is a bunch of people occupying spaces. But people get mad at me for speaking the obvious facts because the dudes in our community, a lot of them are busters and suckers. How you going to sit up there? Listen, black people, we can't afford to ignore these problems. If you don't have black families, you don't have a damn community. What you have is a ghetto and a bunch of ignorant people who are just occupying space and giving birth to the future criminals. You can't even call that a community. If you got a bunch of single mothers raising children with no man in the home, that ain't no damn community. If you look at what's going on in the South right now, I did some content on that yesterday. Latinos are the fastest growing group in the South. And what does that tell you? Black people, more black people in the South are dying compared to black people that are being born. I'm going to say this again for you slow people, and we're going to move on to these black inventions. More black people in the South are dying compared to the blacks that are being born. Latinos are now the fastest growing population in Alabama. They're the fastest population growing in Georgia, the fastest population growing in Louisiana, the fastest population growing in Mississippi, the fastest growing population in Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia. So while you fake ass Negroes, while y'all gonna sit up there and ignore feminism, you got an immigrant group. You have an immigrant group that are the fastest growing population in the Deep South. Yes, I said it, the Deep South. Latinos are now the fastest growing population. Do you know in North Carolina, this is what they said, and I did the stream yesterday. In North Carolina, 70% of the new homeowners are Latinos, not black folks. If you don't have families, you don't have a damn community, you dummies. So you can choose to ignore feminism like it doesn't have a negative effect on the community, but you are a beta male simp that's too afraid to address the women and set the record straight. I don't have a problem with you correcting the men about things that we need to do better, because there's a lot of things that we need to do better as black men. But when you choose to ignore feminism, you a male feminist yourself. Anyway, man, let's get into these black inventions. I had to say that because I'm sick of these male feminists in our community. It's way too many of them. That's exactly what happens when you have generations of black men that are raised by their mother.
Ways you might not even realize. These are the stories that often get left out of textbooks, but not here. Today,
Right, Scoop. When black women embraced feminism, abortions went up and birth rates went down. What you had was women raising children with no men. Feminism gave birth to that. When black women embraced feminism in the 70s, birth rates went down, abortions went up. What you had was apartments and households full of women and no damn man. The black woman, this is what happened. We're going to educate her, not really educate her. We're going to indoctrinate her and tell her that she don't need a man. She can have a baby and the government going to help her to take care of these kids. What happened was a lot of women became promiscuous and sexually liberated. And once black women felt like they were sexually liberated, they felt like we don't need no man. We can have sex just like men and not be judged for it. Even if I had this kid, the government going to help me take care of this kid. That was the downfall of the black community right there. Because guess what? Our birth rates went down. The rate of abortions went up and birth rates went down. The rate of marriage went down. And the amount of women who filed for divorce when they got married, the numbers are just crazy. And I'm going to say this, and I don't say this to put the black woman down. I say this because we have to correct this behavior. The black woman is the least married, but yet and still she files for divorce at the highest rate. The black woman didn't get like that overnight. That came from feminism. That mentality stems from feminism. And feminism is a symptom of white supremacy. But these beta males who talk about tethers all day refuse to address the real problem, which is fatherless homes and promiscuous women.
we're starting a brand new series, the Top 100 Inventions by Black Innovators. And in this episode, we're kicking things off with 10 inventions that change the way we live, work, and stay safe every single day. Before we get into
government didn't tell black men nothing. The government was speaking directly to the women. The government gave women benefits. They didn't give men benefits. The government told women, you don't need the man, get rid of him, and I'll take care of you. That mentality gave birth to feminism. How you gonna talk about white supremacy but never mention feminism? Because you a beta male. You a male feminist yourself. That's why you never address feminism. You're too afraid to address the issues with women. I'm not saying that we need to demonize black women and disparage them and disrespect them. What I'm saying is we got to be honest with them we have to be honest with them and tell them where they went wrong. How you going to lead your women if you can't correct your women? How you going to lead your women if you can't be honest with them? Feminism led to the downfall of the black community. Think about this. We was dealing with a whole lot of white supremacy in the 30s and 50s. If you go back to the 30s and 40s, we dealt with a lot of racism and white supremacy, but black women wasn't feminists. They still stayed in line. Even though we dealt with racism and white supremacy, the black woman was still loyal to her man. In the 70s, when black women embraced feminism, the government told black women, you ain't got to be loyal to your man, but we still going to look out for you. So what did that do? That created women who felt like I can do whatever I want to do and I don't need no man. The government's still going to take care of me regardless. Feminism gave birth to that mentality. And the fact that you don't have black men addressing that is crazy.
These untold stories of Black excellence, check out the new ebook, Black Brilliance: Inventors Who Change History. These are the minds behind some of the world's most essential innovations, and their names deserve to be known. Link in the description.
Hit the like button if you haven't already. These black men who claim to be FBA or Pan-African, they're too afraid to address feminism and how that destroyed black family. Listen, white supremacy didn't destroy, well, feminism is a symptom of white supremacy, so I got to be real about that. But prior to feminism, the black community and black families were still going strong. Feminism divided the black family. That's what divided the black family. But none of these Negroes with platforms that make FBA content, none of these suckers ever take the time to talk about that. because they're too afraid to address black women. That's why they say nothing.
Grab your copy today. Let's jump in. 1. Garrett Morgan, traffic signal, 1923. Let's start with something we see every single day: traffic lights. Before Garrett Morgan's invention, traffic was chaotic. Accidents at intersections were common because signals were basic and often ignored. Garrett Morgan saw a problem and came up with a solution that changed the world. He patented the 3-position traffic signal, introducing the caution or warning light, the yellow light that gives drivers a heads up to slow down. Morgan's invention wasn't just clever, it made intersections safer globally and set the standard for traffic control systems used across cities and countries today. The next time you stop at a red light, remember, you're experiencing Garrett Morgan's genius in action. 2. Madam C.J. Walker, hair care products, early 1900s. Madam C.J. Walker wasn't just an inventor, she was a business powerhouse and a role model for generations. In the early 1900s, hair care products for black women were either ineffective or unsafe. Madam Walker developed a hair care system specifically designed for black women's hair, promoting scalp health and hair growth. But she didn't stop there. She built an empire, empowering thousands of women with business opportunities and teaching them how to become financially independent. Her legacy isn't just in the products she created, but in the path she paved for black entrepreneurship and economic empowerment, making her story a true inspiration for self-made success. 3. George Washington Carver, crop rotation and peanut products. You might have heard of George Washington Carver and peanuts, but his impact goes far beyond peanut butter. Carver was
We created the gas mask, the traffic light. We did the first open heart surgery. We did the first blood transfusion. A lot of people don't know this, right? And you can't expect them to understand history because they don't study it. They look for negative things about black people, but they don't look at the things that we created or invented in this country. All facts, family.
Was a brilliant agricultural scientist who pioneered crop rotation methods to prevent soil depletion. This changed farming practices across America, especially in the South. He also developed over 300 products from peanuts, including dyes, plastics, adhesives, and even fuel alternatives, as well as innovations from sweet potatoes and pecans. Carver's work wasn't just about farming. It was about sustainable living, innovation, and creating economic opportunities for marginalized farmers. His environmental foresight was decades ahead of his time. 4. Lewis Latimer, carbon filament for light bulb, 1881. Thomas Edison may have invented the light bulb, but Lewis Latimer made it practical for everyday use. Before Latimer's improvement, light bulbs burned out quickly and were too fragile. Latimer invented a carbon filament that made bulbs last longer, brighter, and more affordable. Without his contribution, electric lighting would have taken much longer to become a household standard. Latimer also drafted the original drawings for Alexander Graham Bell's telephone patent. He wasn't just a brilliant inventor, he was a pioneer in both the electrical and communication industries, making him one of the unsung heroes of modern technology. 5. Granville T. Woods, multiplex telegraph, 1887. Ever wondered how trains communicate with stations while moving at high speeds? Meet Granville T. Woods, often called the Black Edison. In 1887, Woods invented the multiplex telegraph, a system that allowed trains to send and receive messages while in motion. This invention drastically improved railway safety by preventing collisions and ensuring smooth communication between train conductors and station operators. Woods held over 60 patents in his lifetime, contributing to everything from overhead electric railways to telephone systems. His inventions laid the groundwork for safer and more efficient public transportation networks around the world. 6. Dr. Patricia Bath, laser cataract surgery in 1986. Vision is something many of us take for granted, but Dr. Patricia Bath dedicated her life to restoring sight for millions. She invented the laser phaco probe in 1986, a device that uses lasers to painlessly remove cataracts. Before her invention, cataract surgery was more invasive and less precise. Dr. Bath's laser technique became a global standard, revolutionizing eye surgery and improving success rates dramatically. She was also a co-founder of the American Institute for the Prevention of Blindness, advocating for eye care as a basic human right. Dr. Bath's work continues to impact lives globally, proving that innovation can truly change the world. 7. Elijah McCoy, automatic lubricator for steam engines, 1872. The phrase, "the real McCoy," meaning the real deal, comes from this man's inventions. Elijah McCoy developed an automatic lubricator for steam engines, which allowed trains and factory machines to be oiled without needing to stop. Drastically improved efficiency and safety during the industrial age, as frequent stops for manual lubrication were no longer necessary. McCoy's design was so effective that people would specifically ask for the real McCoy to avoid cheap imitations. His genius wasn't just in his inventions, but in his ability to spot problems and create simple yet powerful solutions that industries relied on. 8. Sarah Boone, improved ironing board, 1892. Ironing clothes might not be glamorous, but Sarah Boone's invention made it a whole lot easier and more efficient. In 1892, she patented an improved ironing board designed specifically for sleeves and curved garments. Before her design, ironing was awkward, with flat boards that didn't accommodate the shapes of modern clothing. Boone's board made pressing clothes smoother and more precise, helping tailors and households alike. Her innovation might seem simple, but it's a perfect example of how practical, everyday challenges can spark inventions that stand the test of time and benefit millions. 9. Frederick McKinley Jones, portable refrigeration, 1940s. Every time you buy fresh produce or frozen goods from a grocery store, you can thank Frederick McKinley Jones. He invented the portable refrigeration unit for trucks, which allowed perishable goods to be transported over long distances without spoiling. This invention revolutionized the food industry, enabling the modern cold chain that keeps our groceries fresh and safe. Jones's technology wasn't just for food. It was also used in medical transport, preserving blood, organs, and vaccines during World War II. His work literally saved lives and changed how goods and medicine are distributed worldwide. 10. Marie Van Britten Brown, Home Security System, 1966. Feeling safe in your home is something we often take for granted, but Marie Van Britten Brown made that possible through innovation. In 1966, she invented the first home security system, complete with cameras, two-way communication, and remote-controlled door locks. Her design laid the foundation for modern security systems used in millions of homes today, from simple doorbell cameras to full surveillance networks. Brown's invention wasn't just about safety. It was about empowering homeowners to take control of their security, a vision that became a billion-dollar industry decades later. She foresaw the future of smart home technology before anyone else. These are just the first 10 out of 100 incredible inventions by Black innovators that transformed the world. Their stories are not just...
So there you go. See, I wanted to do this, and the thing about it is, I bring you guys a lot of this history, man. Check this out.
You won't believe how many everyday things were invented by Black innovators. Here are the top 7 inventions created by African Americans, and I bet you didn't know all 7. And trust me, number 5 changed the world and probably saved someone's life that you know. Number 1, the traffic light. Garrett Morgan. Imagine roads without traffic lights. Total chaos, right? Morgan's 3-position system made driving safe and saved countless lives. Number 2, the light bulb's carbon filament. Lewis Latimer. Edison may have invented the bulb, but Latimer made it last way longer. Without him, we'd be sitting in the dark. Number 3, automatic elevator doors. Alexander Miles. Ever stepped into an elevator and the doors just closed? Before Miles' invention, people had to shut them manually, which was dangerous and annoying. Number 4, the super soaker. Lonnie Johnson. A NASA engineer wanted a better water gun and ended up creating one of the best-selling toys of all time. Number 5, blood banks. Dr. Charles Drew. This one literally saved millions of lives. His method for storing blood revolutionized medicine and is still being used today. Number 6, home security systems. Marie Van Britten Brown. The original security system, a Black woman invented it. Now surveillance cameras are everywhere. And number 7, the gas mask. Garrett Morgan again. His invention saved firefighters and soldiers. This guy was a straight up genius. Which one of these surprised you the most? And tag someone who needs to know this. You won't believe how many everyday things were invented.
Now, to all you people that call us lazy, show us what your people created in this country. What have your people created in this country? We gave this country over 300 years of free labor and countless inventions. Our labor is what made this country wealthy. Our labor is what made this country a powerhouse. Straight up and down. It was our labor that made this country a damn powerhouse. Hit the like button if you haven't already, family. And like I said, bro, there's many other things. Listen, I'm barely touching the surface. There's many other things that we invented as well. I just wanted to name a few. This was just to name a few. There's many more, right? And I'm just getting started when it comes to Black history and Black inventions. See, these male feminists, they don't like it when I hold women accountable. We have to, bro, because the women embrace feminism for their own benefit. Like when you think about the revolution and the Black Power movement, a lot of those women hopped on the womanist feminist hype train. So instead of fighting for Black power, a lot of these women started fighting for feminism and woman empowerment. Woman empowerment was feminism in disguise. I'm gonna say that again. Woman empowerment was nothing but feminism in disguise. That's all it was. And we got all these brothers that make FBA content, but they never address feminism. When we all know the negative effect that feminism had on our community. Feminism gave birth to the independent woman who felt like she didn't need no man. And once women embraced feminism, you started to see women raising children with no man. Feminism gave birth to the single mother mentality. I'm gonna say it again. Feminism gave birth to the single mom mentality. Prior to feminism, Black women didn't think like that. How you gonna talk about white supremacy but never address feminism? That's what I mean when I say we got a bunch of male feminists running around claiming to be conscious, but they never take the time to correct the women. If you're going to be honest with Black people, at some point you got to have the conversation about feminism and how it destroyed Black families, how it destroyed the relationship between the Black man and the Black woman. Most of these guys that make FBA content, they never talk about that. And you wonder why. I think we know why. It's no secret. We know why. We know why they don't talk about it. But I'm not here to put my people down. I'm here to correct behaviors, and I'm here to tell everybody these are our contributions to the country. These are the things that we created. These are the things that we invented. That's what I'm here to talk about.
Over long distances without spoiling.
Hold on 1 second. Listen, if you like masculine men and masculine conversations, then tap in over here. Because if you talk about white supremacy all day, but you never address feminism, I can't take you serious. And you don't need me to take you serious. But like I said, bro, I'm putting everybody up on game about the things that we invented, the things that we created. And the problem is, it's a lot of FBA women. Well, where's the men that's addressing that? Show me the Black men with large microphones in the FBA community that's addressing feminism. Show me the Black men who make FBA content that addresses feminism. Because it's a damn shame if we got women talking about it and you ain't got men that's talking about it. That's a damn shame. Let me show you something about how the Mexicans fought to be legally white. How the LULAC organization, check this out right here. Black men's too weak nowadays to lead his woman. I'm not speaking for all of you, but I'm speaking for the majority. Anything over 50% is the majority. The Black man is too damn weak to correct his woman. Prime example, you got all these Black men with large platforms in the conscious community, and they never talk about feminism. And we all know that feminism is a symptom of white supremacy, but they never talk about it. Why? Because they're too damn weak to correct their women. That's why they never talk about it. At some point, the Black woman got to fall in line with the Black man's leadership if you want to have a real community, if you want to have a real movement. How you going to talk Black power every day, but the women feel like they're equal to the man? The women feel like money makes them better than a man or equal to a man. How you going to have a community with a bunch of women who think like that? That means that the women don't believe in your leadership. But guess what? The Black man is so weak today that he's too afraid to correct behaviors in his own woman. So much to the point to where he says nothing and he talks about white supremacy and immigration all day, but he never takes the time to correct the women in his community. Check this out, fellas. We got to correct the brothers in our community. So if we got to take time to correct the men in our community, surely we got to take time to correct the women.
Like, first of all,
now when Mexicans talk about racism, they say it's just gangbanging, right? I'm gonna switch gears for a second and I'm gonna get back to this feminism thing. I think I'm gonna do a whole live stream about how black men are too weak to lead their women because black men with large platforms refuse to address feminism. So it shows how weak a lot of brothers are today. It just shows our weakness. But right here, right now, what I'm gonna talk about is this. When Mexicans say, "Oh, racism comes from gangbanging," no, your civil rights leaders were racist. The LULAC organization, which are the civil rights leaders for the Latino community, they was promoting anti-black racism. They fought to be legally white. They wanted Mexicans to be recognized as Caucasians in the census. If you don't believe me, get a load of this and just bless the like button. I covered this story before, but it's time that I cover it again because a lot of you people have short memories.
oh, let me start off by saying congratulations to Kendrick Lamar and all of the wonderful individuals that performed last night.
Hell yeah, shut him up.
So I'm
I'm gonna say this. How you gonna sit up there and ignore dating and relationship conversations when black women had the lowest marriage rates, but they filed for divorce at the highest rates? You can't afford to ignore that conversation because it goes back to what I said. If you don't have families, you don't have a damn community. Families create communities. So without families, there will be no community. So if black women are the least married and they file for divorce at the highest rate, that is a major problem. That is stopping our progress. You cannot have a community without families. So you got all these black men who refuse to address feminism. They are pandering to the women. They're part of the problem as well. They're nothing but male feminists preaching black power. How in the hell are you going to advance when you got a bunch of male feminists who refuse to address the main problem? The main problem is fatherless homes, women having babies out of wedlock, promiscuous women who feel like they can raise children on their own. You need families to even have a damn community. So when people say there's no such thing as a black community, they're actually right, because what you have is a bunch of women with jobs that's making money now who feel like they don't need to listen to no man. Anytime you say you don't need no man, you're going against the word of God. God created men to be your leader, women. That right there was designed by the Most High. And if you go against that, you're going against God. You ain't just going against man. You're going against God. You're going against the pecking order. You're going against the nature of pecking order. You're going against nature. You're going against the pecking order. I'll put it like that. If you don't have families, you don't have a community. So when you look at these ghettos and Section 8 homes with these little Pookies and Ray Rays shooting up the community, well, that's a prime example of feminism and single motherhood. Feminism gave birth to single motherhood. Prior to black women embracing feminism, black women had some of the highest marriage rates. Our birth rates were high. Our rates of marriages were high. When the black woman embraced feminism, birth rates went down, the number of abortions went up, and you start to see single mothers raising children with no man. You can't even call that a community. That is a destitute community and a bunch of people living in poverty with no instructions from a man, a bunch of kids running wild because they're raised with women with no damn man in the house. You can't even call that a community. You're going to talk about white supremacy, but you never address feminism. Now, how weak is that?
Go racial with it, but I will say,
we're just picking each other brains apart.
although it was Juneteenth, and I believe that's in remembrance of the massacre. I don't want to be wrong, but is it in Tulsa?
Let me tell you something, man. I am sick of weak ass black men. I am sick of them. Shout out to Alray for the cash app. I am sick of these weak ass black men who are too afraid to correct their women. I am sick of them. And our community is full of these dudes. I'm going to talk about white supremacy, but I ain't going to say nothing about feminism. You old weak ass. Feminism destroyed black families. And they did it on purpose. But none of these beta males got the heart to address it. I'm going to shut up, man. And I want y'all to listen to the LULAC organization and how they taught their people to be anti-black and how they fought for and how they fought to be legally white.
Or in Selma.
I don't even know.
Or a place over there. I could be wrong, and I hate to be wrong, but I know it's in remembrance of a massacre that took place, right?
I speak about that, right? I speak about death, destruction, and gang banging, and how black men need to take care of their children. So I use my platform to correct black men's behavior as well. I don't just come down on the women without saying anything to the men. I tell men about what they need to be doing all the time. The problem is these beta males never take the time to correct female behavior. And we all know that the majority of our women have embraced feminism. It is a fact. If you look at the birth rates, if you look at the marriage rates, that's a prime example of feminism. But these beta males and these male feminists who claim to be conscious refuse to address it.
I like to say that the Mexican people have been persecuted in this wonderful land for a long, long, long time.
Now, but let's get back on the Latinos, because I don't want to stick on I'm just letting the Latinos know I do correct my people, because there's a lot of problems in our community that need to be fixed, and people in our community don't like me because I choose to address it. That's why a lot of suckers don't like me. They choose to ignore it. I choose to address it. So as a result of that, a lot of the female feminists don't like King Supreme. A lot of these guys who make FBA content, they don't like King Supreme either. And I think we all know why. It's not a secret at this point. It's obvious. Now, Mexicans fought to be legally white. They felt like being white would give them more opportunities. They felt like being classified as white would give them more opportunities. So this is why they fought to be legally white in this country. And if you don't believe me, I want you to listen to this video, and I'm going to show you exactly what the LULAC organization said and what they did for the Latino Chicanos.
I have a question. Why is it that whenever black people are minding their own business, whenever it is that black people are doing their own thing, they're not bothering nobody and referencing nobody, somehow people make themselves the topic? People somehow want to make it seem as though that black people are deliberately trying to, and then you want to bring up the part of like, oh, well, I can deal with that situation and that problem with the United States government.
Shout out to Cejito, the second homecoming. Now, shout out to Cejito, man. That was a good video that you made, and I'm using your video right now. Bless the like button if you haven't already. Check this out. This is the LULAC organization, and I'm going to show you that racism in the Mexican Latino community runs deeper than gangbanging. Anti-blackness is a part of Latino culture, not just in Mexico, all over Latin America. Check this out.
Correct. You can also deal with that conversation when it deals with the police, right? Correct. But I'm also going to bring up this one thing as well. Dr. Hector Garcia was a physician, military veteran, and advocate for the rights of Mexican Americans. Quote, "We are not and have never been a civil rights organization personally. I hate the word." Hector Garcia, founder of the American GI Forum.
They not like us. They not like us. They not like us.
By the early 1950s, the American GI Forum, while still denying that it was a civil rights organization, sought to end discrimination in Texas schools, in employment, and in the use of public spaces. The core strategy depended on educating Anglos that Americans of Spanish-speaking descent or Latin Americans were Caucasian, and that to identify them as anything but white, whether on birth certificates or traffic citations, was illegal. Making any distinction between Latin Americans and whites, he wrote, was a slur, an insult to all Latin Americans of Spanish descent.
They not like us. They not like us. They not like us.
John James Herrera was an American attorney, activist, and leader in the Chicano movement. Quote, "Latin Americans of Mexican descent belong to the Caucasian race and are therefore white." John J. Herrera. LULAC president, 1952. John James Herrera joined the League of United Latin American Citizens, or LULAC, in 1933 and began practicing law in Houston, Texas in 1943. During World War II, he was involved in the movement to end employment discrimination against Mexican Americans in Houston shipyards. In 1948, he joined the legal team that brought the school discrimination case of Minerva Delgado against the Bastrop Independent School District to the Texas Supreme Court. The ruling declared educational segregation of Mexican American students illegal in Texas.
They not like us. They not like us. They not like us.
Felix Tijerina, 1905 to 1965, was a Mexican-American restaurateur, activist, and a philanthropist in Houston, Texas. He served as the 25th president of the League of United Latin American Citizens. Quote, "Let the Negro fight his own battles. His problems are not mine. I don't want to ally with them." Felix Tijerina stated that his mission was to help Mexican Americans merge into the American mainstream as successfully as he had, and that early Mexican restaurants like Felix's were among the first institutions where urban Anglos and Hispanics rubbed elbows. Tijerina's Americanized version of Mexican cooking was what brought the races together, and it was a triumph of diplomacy. Walsh also added that Tijerina's style of cooking was not about bringing authentic Mexican flavors to Texas, it was about putting Anglos at ease with things Mexican.
They not like us. They not like us. They not like us.
Gustavo Gus C. Garcia, July 27, 1915, June 3, 1964, was an American civil rights attorney. Garcia worked with fellow attorney Carlos Cadena in the landmark case Hernandez versus Texas, 1954, arguing before the United States Supreme Court for the end of a practice of systematic exclusion of Hispanics from jury service in Jackson County, Texas. Gustavo stated this: "I know Negroes aren't getting their full share of democracy, but frankly, I'm prejudiced against Negroes, and I do not believe that they are entitled to everything that we get." Garcia served as legal advisor to the League of United Latin American Citizens from 1939 to the 1940s. He was elected to the San Antonio Independent School District Board of Education in April of 1948, but later resigned. He helped revise the LULAC Constitution to permit non-Mexican Americans to become members in 1949. In that year, he also served as a lawyer to the family of Felix Longoria and helped contract negotiations for the rights of workers in the United States-Mexico Barcero program. On May 8, 1950, Garcia and George I. Sanchez appeared before the State Board of Education to seek desegregation enforcement.
They not like us. They not like us. They not like us.
So you see that, right? So when they say, oh, it's only gangbanging, no, it's politics. If you look at what the LA City Council people said about black people, these people are not gangbangers. These are supposed to be politicians, people who, who people that's in politics, right? So it runs way deeper than gangbanging, but Mexican gang members are trying to tell you, oh, it's just gangbanging. Nah, they're civil rights leaders. LULAC is like the civil rights. They're the civil rights leaders for the Latino community. They was promoting anti-blackness. They said that Latinos and Mexicans belong to the Caucasian race and we don't want nothing to do with Negroes. So their LULAC leaders promoted anti-blackness. See, the crazy part about it is even when I give these receipts, they're still going to find a way to say, no, that's not true. That's their favorite word. No, it's not true. That's their favorite thing to say. I'll put it like that. It's 100% true. You can show these people the documents of what they people did, and they'll still deny it. They'll still pretend like it's not true. Let's move on over here. I got
a lot of Hispanic and Latino parents will literally try to teach you at a young age to not be friends with black people, and it's disgusting. They show you racism, anti-blackness, like.
So listen, I'm not just talking about the Latinos. I'm holding our people accountable. We got weak ass black men that never address feminism, but talk about white supremacy all day. When feminism was one of the main contributing factors that destroyed the relationship between the black man and the black woman. But we got all these black men that are too afraid to address it because they're too afraid to correct female behavior. So they say nothing about it. I'm sick of these Negroes talking about white supremacy all day, but they never address feminism. Oh, there's gender. There's no such thing as a gender war. A woman couldn't survive. Women can't survive going to war with a man. So there's no such thing as a gender war. You have facts versus fiction. Look at how the black woman conducted herself prior to feminism. Then look at how the black woman conducts herself after she embraced it. It is night and day. And if you refuse to accept that, you're just being stupid. Before the black woman became a feminist, she had the highest marriage rates and she was having babies, and you had black families. When a black woman embraced feminism in the 70s, abortions went up, birth rates went down. You started to see women raising children with no man. Feminism gave birth to all that nonsense, and all these black men with these platforms never take the time to address it. And you wonder why. I think you guys with common sense know why they refuse to address it. It's common sense. The writing is on the wall at this point. The black woman is the least married, but she files for divorce at the highest rate. Those are terrible numbers. Those are terrible stats. But the conscious black man refused to address that. It shows you how weak the black man is today. And I hate to say it, but I got to say it because it's the honest to God truth. The black man is so weak. I'm talking about the conscious black man. He panders to his people all day about white supremacy, but he never addresses feminism. He won't say nothing about it. He pretends like it's not a problem in the world. He pretends like feminism don't affect this community and how the women think. He pretends like it doesn't. He pretends like feminism doesn't have a negative effect on how the women in our community operate and think. So much to the point to where he says nothing about it. Matter of fact, he gives a blind eye to it and panders to them about white supremacy and immigrants all damn day.
Colorism at a young age. You could be a dark-skinned Latino and yet you will get a lot of hate. Not only that, media will even show that too, where literally they show that white Latinos are literally rich, smart, educated, and they're always holy. But when it comes to black people or Afro-Latinos, they're ghetto, they're poor, uneducated, and they're criminals. And not only that, a lot of these celebrities believe this too. And also, they do blackface. And that's why a lot of people don't want to unionize when it comes to the Hispanic Latino community, because of the amount of fucking anti-blackness, the racism towards black people. And not only that, y'all forget that literally black people have influenced our community so much, from technology, from food, to even music. And some of y'all be dancing to those music that literally were influenced by black people.
What does civil rights mean to you? So given the work that—
All right, so you see that, right? Let's go to the founders of Los Angeles. So you seen that, you witnessed that. Yeah, man, so many of our black brothers, they're weak, bro. They just weak. They're weak. Guess what? Do you know when it comes to these white nationalists, the speakers are men? Like, you got white nationalist groups, right? And white nationalists ain't nothing but white supremacists. That's all they are, right? They're just, it's another word of white supremacists. It's just a better way to say it, right? Do you know in their organization, the men are the leaders, what the men say go, and the women follow suit? They don't get in there trying to argue and debate with their men. They fall in line with those men. If they find out a white woman was a black male worshiper or what they call a mud shark, she's not allowed in the organization. She'll be ostracized. She'll get ostracized, right? She won't be a part of the damn group. So when you think about these white men and these white nationalist groups, the women who follow those groups understand what the men say goes. In the FBA movement, these Negroes think they're going to give the women equality, and they wonder why they can't lead their women. This is why they got to pander to them and praise them, but they offer no correction. That's how weak the black male is in today's times. He can't even correct his women. If you ever take the time to look at those white nationalist groups, whatever the white man says goes, and the women follow suit. They don't sit up there debating. They don't debate those men. They don't sit up there trying to contest what they're saying. Those women fall in line with those white men. Whatever they say goes. If the white man tells a white woman she needs to conduct herself a certain way, she follows suit. She don't argue. She don't give no talk back. She don't give no lip. In the FBA community, these brothers are so weak that they can't even correct their women without backlash. A lot of these brothers fear losing support from the FBA community if they do correct black women. So they say nothing about it because they fear losing supporters. So they won't say nothing. I got to be real with you, brother. The black man is compromising his own household. The black man is compromising his own community. He's too afraid to correct the behaviors of his own women. And that is sad. When a white man speaks in those white nationalist groups, those women be quiet and they listen. And they take orders and instructions from their men. They don't challenge what those men say. Listen, feminism has no place in those white nationalist movements. They understand how counterproductive it is. But in the FBA community, my God, feminism runs rapidly. Feminism runs rapidly through the FBA community. How you going to be conscious and a feminist at the same time? It doesn't even make sense. How you going to be a Christian? How you going to claim to be religious and you a feminist at the same time? It doesn't work. We got way too many feminists in our community, and we got too many beta males who refuse to correct that behavior within the community. And that's a major problem. Black women, listen, black women have the lowest rates of marriage, but they file for divorce at the highest rate. Nobody files for divorce more than a black woman. That's a major problem. If black people want to make progress, you got to nip that in the bud. Like I said before, earlier in the podcast, if you don't have black families, you don't have a community. What you have is single moms having babies with no man. You got to have families before you can even have a community. And the sad part about it is these beta males don't understand that. You can preach black power all day. But if you don't have the power to correct your women when they deserve correction, you're just talking. You're just running your mouth. You're just pandering to the women to get easy money. Look at Dr. Umar. This dude is 50 plus years old and he calls black women queens, but yet and still he don't have a black queen. He ain't got a black wife. Dr. Umar uses his platform to sleep with single mothers, vulnerable women. He's taking advantage. Does Dr. Umar say real things? Yes, Dr. Umar does say a lot of real things, and I salute him for that. But this is how you know Dr. Umar is pandering. He never corrects female behavior, and he calls black women queens all day. But notice he's not married to not one of those black queens. You mean to tell me you travel the world, you travel the whole country, and you 50 plus years old, and you don't have one black queen, you don't have a black wife at all? So it proves that he don't believe that black women are queens. He calls black women queens because he understands if he panders to them, he can get their money. And Dr. Umar ain't the only black man that panders to black women to get money. There's a whole lot of these fake ass conscious black simps, and all they do is pander to the black woman, but they never correct her behavior. They never tell the black woman where she went wrong. They never tell the black woman, hey, baby, this is how you can fix this. Not only will I tell you where you went wrong, I'm gonna tell you how you can fix it. They won't do it. They pander to these women for easy money. How are you 50 plus years old calling black women queens and you don't even have a black wife? If Dr. Umar truly felt that black women were queens, surely he would have a black wife by now that he's 50 plus years old. Dr. Umar ain't the listen. There's tons of black panda bears. There's tons of black male panda bears in our community who just tell black women what they want to hear all day.
Thursday, September 4th. (1781), the city of Los Angeles was founded. But what if I told you the city of Hollywood dreams and endless freeways was actually founded by black families? And what if I told you this incredible piece of history was deliberately erased and hidden for over a century? I'm not talking about some minor historical footnote. I'm talking about the majority of the founding families. More than half of the 44 people who established Los Angeles in 1781 were black or African descent. And here's the really shocking part. This erasure was so complete that today most people living in LA have no idea who actually built their city. We're talking about one of the most successful cover-ups in American history. Today, we're going to go full detective mode to uncover how an entire city's origin story got rewritten and why the truth is finally coming to light. Picture this. It's September 4th, 1781. The sun is beating down on a group of 44 settlers trudging through what is now Southern California. They're carrying everything they own: tools, seeds, livestock, and dreams of a new life. These pioneers are about to establish El Puerto de Nuestra Señora la Reina de Los Angeles. I hope I got that right. The town of Our Lady, the Queen of the Angels. In a few centuries, this tiny settlement will become the sprawling metropolis known as Los Angeles. But here's where your history textbook probably never told you. When Spanish officials recorded that racial composition of these founding families, the documents tell an incredible story. According to the official colonial census, 26 of the 44 founders were listed as Negro, mulatto, or mestizo, or of mixed African heritage. That's not a typo. That's not a historical anomaly. More than half of the people who founded what would become America's second largest city were black. So how did this story disappear so completely that even most people from Los Angeles today have never heard of it? To understand how Los Angeles really came to be, we need to go back to Spain's colonial strategy in the 1700s. The Spanish Empire controlled vast territories across the Americas, but California, it was a problem child. It was expensive to maintain, difficult to defend, and it was sparsely populated. Russian fur traders were creeping down from Alaska, and the British were eyeing the Pacific coast. Spain.
This right here is just giving you some education about how a lot of the founders of Los Angeles are actually black, and they don't talk about that. Shout out to Leroy for the 10. Shout out to Lions Dollars for the 10.
Needed settlers, and they needed them fast. But here's where the Spanish policy gets really interesting. Unlike other European powers who primarily recruited white settlers, the Spanish had developed a complex understanding of who actually succeeded on their frontier. Spanish administrators noticed that the people of African and mixed heritage were often more successful at frontier life. They were experienced with diverse climates, skilled in agriculture, and they had the survival skills that they developed over many generations. In Spanish colonial thinking, they were the ideal colonists. So when Felipe de Neve, the Spanish governor of California, put together the Los Angeles expedition, his recruiters specifically sought out these families. They offered incredible incentives, everything from free land, livestock, farming tools, and a guaranteed salary for a couple of years. The expedition wasn't random. It was very carefully planned. Each family was chosen for specific skills. There were farmers, blacksmiths, soldiers, and craftsmen, and the majority happened to be of African descent. Now, let me introduce you to some of these founding families. There was Jose Vangelis, listed as Indian, who brought crucial knowledge of local agriculture. Maria Antonio Campos, described as mulatto, whose family would become major landowners. The Merino family, and yes, Merino literally means dark-skinned in Spanish. And then there's the Pico family. Antonio Franco Pico was listed as mulatto in the original records. His descendants would become some of the most powerful people in California history. The settlement they established wasn't some struggling outpost. It was remarkably successful right from the start. These families knew what they were doing. Within a few years, they had established thriving farms, built a church, and created a functioning local government. The black and mixed-race families weren't marginalized. They were the community leaders. Take Pio Pico, grandson of the original founder Antonio Pico. He became the last Mexican governor of California, one of the wealthiest men on the West Coast, and owner of vast cattle ranches. When Americans talk about the Spanish dons of old California, they're often actually referring about families from African descent. The Reyes family, also of African heritage, became major landowners in what is now Westwood and Bel Air. Some of LA's most expensive real estate today sits on land that was originally granted to black founding families. This success continued for decades, though through Mexican independence in 1821 and well into the American period after 1848, these families maintained their prominence. They intermarried with other elite families, served in government, and shaped the region's development.
So hit the like button, man, because this is some real history right here, man. And we're going to continue to talk about it. So bless the like button, man. This is some real black history. Guess what? I'm going to talk about feminism, everything. I'm not going to talk about white supremacy and leave feminism out. That's weak.
So what changed? How did the story of black founding families get completely erased? The answer lies in the 1880s, when Los Angeles experienced its first major population boom. The Transcontinental Railroad reached Los Angeles in 1876, and suddenly thousands of white settlers were pouring in from the Midwest and East Coast. Real estate developers saw an unprecedented opportunity. But selling California to white settlers required the right narrative. Developers weren't just selling land, they were selling a lifestyle, a dream, an identity. And that dream needed the right kind of history. Enter the romantic myth of old California, a fantasy of noble Spanish dons, beautiful senoritas, and pastoral ranchos. This wasn't just marketing. It was historical revisionism on an industrial scale. Tourism boards hired writers to create romanticized histories. Publishers produced guidebooks that emphasized Spanish colonial grandeur while quietly omitting any mention of African heritage among the founding families. The process was systematic and deliberate. City boosters, historians, and civic leaders made conscious choices about which version of history to promote. The Spanish colonial fantasy sold real estate. The multiracial reality, it didn't. But the erasure went deeper than just the marketing materials. School textbooks began teaching the romanticized version. Official city histories adapted the whitewashed narrative. Even academic historians started repeating the myth without checking the original sources. The most insidious part? Even some descendants of the original families began denying their African heritage. In an increasingly segregated society, being Spanish opened more doors than being black or mixed race. Families quietly changed their stories to fit the acceptable narrative. By the early 1900s, the transformation was complete. Los Angeles had successfully rebranded its original story from a diverse frontier settlement to a romantic Spanish colonial fantasy. What makes this erasure even more shocking is how thorough it became. We're not talking about a few missing details. We're talking entire family histories were rewritten. And ironically, Hollywood, founded in a city established by black families, began producing movies that reinforced the Spanish Don mythology. Films like Ramona and countless westerns depicted California's past as an exclusively white and Hispanic story. Even the academic institutions joined the cover-up. UCLA, USC, and other universities built their California history programs around the romanticized narrative. Professors might have questioned the story, simply accepted the existing accounts without examining primary sources. The California Historical Society, museums, cultural institutions, they all adopted the whitewashed version. Exhibits, monuments, and official commemorations consistently ignored the African heritage of the founding families. Perhaps most tragically, this erasure robbed generations of black.
Yeah, I said, you know what? Since a lot of these people believe in a white man, I said, I'm gonna let the white man tell you about a lot of the founders of Los Angeles. Because if a black man said, no, that's not true. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna let the white man tell you, right? These are historical facts. One thing you know about me is this, y'all. I'm gonna talk about every issue. I'm not gonna talk about white supremacy while ignoring feminism. I don't have a problem addressing the Haitians, the Africans, the Latinos, the Pookies who are killing people in our community. I don't have a problem addressing the women who are feminists. One thing that you're going to get from me is honesty and integrity. Something that you ain't going to get from these other platforms. They pick and choose what they want to talk about, but then they say, well, this is black consciousness. This is black empowerment. But they pick and choose who they want to criticize. How are you going to talk about white supremacy but never address feminism? When we all know that once the women became feminism, you've seen the decline in birth rates, you've seen the decline in marriages, you've seen the increase in abortions. So when you tap in with King Supreme, I'm going to talk about everything that affects our community. If the women are doing some BS, I'm going to sit up there and talk about it. If the men are doing BS, I'm going to talk about it. I'm not going to sit up there and leave stones unturned because I'm too afraid that I might offend the women in our community. I don't operate like that, homie. If I got to call out the Latinos, I'll call out the Latinos. Whoever needs to be called out, I ain't got a problem doing it, homie. I don't pick and choose what needs to be called out.
Californians of their rightful place in the state's founding narrative. While the country debated civil rights and equality, one of the most powerful examples of black achievement in the American West, remained hidden. The irony is stunning. During the very decades when black Americans were fighting for recognition and equality, the story of black founding families in America's second largest city remained buried in the archives. So the truth might have stayed hidden forever if it were not for the social upheavals of the 1960s. The civil rights movement didn't just challenge contemporary racism, it forced Americans to re-examine their history. Dr. Jack Forbes, a Native American historian at UC Davis, was researching indigenous populations in colonial California when he stumbled across something extraordinary in the Spanish archives. The original settlement records for Los Angeles told a completely different story than what he'd learned in school. Forbes wasn't looking for African-American history. He was studying native populations. But the Spanish colonial records were so detailed and explicit about racial categories that he couldn't ignore what he was seeing. The Spanish, they kept meticulous records. They didn't just list names. They recorded detailed information about racial background, family relationships, social status, and economic activities. Every founding family's heritage was documented with bureaucratic precision. Forbes began cross-referencing these records with other documents, the birth certificates, marriage records, land grants, and census data. The pattern was undeniable and consistent across multiple sources. Other historians joined the investigation. Dr. William Mason at the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles County, he began his own research. Miriam Matthews, one of the first black librarians in Los Angeles, started connecting the dots between archival records and family oral histories. What they found was explosive. Not just the racial composition of the founding families, but evidence of a systematic cover-up that hid...
And like I told you guys, California was Mexico from 1821 to 1848. That's only 27 years. And when Mexico owned California, they did nothing with it. Seriously, like they did nothing with it. That's a fact, homies. Texas was Mexico from 1821, I believe, to 1836. So that was short-lived on both parts. So when they say Cali, oh man, we used to own Cali, you only own you had it for 27 years, bro. Big deal. And you did nothing with it when you had it. And you sold it to the white man. So if Mexicans are going to talk about reparations, That means that Mexicans in Mexico need to take that talk up with Spain. Mexicans in Mexico deserve reparations from Spain. The Chicano, what is a Chicano? A Chicano is a Mexican that's born in America, the United States. That's what a Chicano means. Reparation goes to the Mexicans in Mexico, and Spain must pay that debt. That ain't got nothing to do with the United States. Let's set the record straight.
This is history for nearly a decade, or nearly, not a decade, a whole century. By the 1970s, the evidence was overwhelming. Multiple independent researchers had reached the same conclusion using different sources and methodologies. The founding of Los Angeles was primarily the achievement of black and mixed-race families. But even with solid evidence, challenging a century of accepted history wasn't easy. Academic institutions that had built their reputations on the Spanish colonial narrative were reluctant to acknowledge their errors. Tourism boards and city officials worried about how this revelation might affect Los Angeles' carefully cultivated image. Some descendants of the original families had mixed reactions. Pride in their heritage conflicted with generations of social conditioning. Gradually, though, the truth began to surface in economic circles, academic circles, and then the community organizations, and then finally the mainstream media. But the process was slow and often met with skepticism. Today, there are modest acknowledgments of this history. A small plaque downtown mentions the diverse origins of the founders. Some schools now teach about the real demographic makeup of early Los Angeles. The Los Angeles Public Library has exhibits on the founding families. But
see, I'm gonna give everybody smoke, man. That's one thing about the king, man. I'm gonna give everybody smoke. A lot of our people need that smoke, man, because that's the only way they're gonna do better. Sweeping these issues underneath the rug ain't gonna fix itself. It's not gonna fix itself. A sickness that goes untreated only gets worse. That's the reality. Now, denial and anti-black racism only got worse because it was ignored for centuries in this country. That's why systematic white supremacy and systemic racism only got worse, because for so long it was swept underneath the rug. The same thing with feminism in the black community. Black men with microphones choose not to talk about it, where the problem gets worse. You got women online and in real life saying that a man need to pay their bills. You got single mothers saying that you need to pay for their babysitter if you want to date them. I mean, this is feminism on steroids. You talk about being ridiculous, and you wonder why the black woman has the lowest rates of marriage, but she files for divorce at the highest rate. That ain't no coincidence. There's a direct connection between the black woman and feminism. Now, we got a lot of white women that are feminists too. I'm not saying that the white women ain't feminists, but I'm trying to correct and fix the problems in our community. I'm holding the black woman accountable for being a damn feminist. How you gonna say that you're black and conscious and you're a damn feminist? How you gonna say that you're a Christian and you believe in God and you're a damn feminist? Feminism goes against the word of God. Feminism goes against black consciousness and black power. But how many brothers in the FBA community do you hear saying that? Feminism goes against black power and black liberation. Feminism goes against God and your particular religion. So how do you claim to be black and conscious, but you're a damn feminist? It don't mix like water and it doesn't mix like water and electricity. It's buffoonery. You can't claim, how you gonna claim to be black and conscious, but you a damn feminist? Being a feminist goes against black consciousness. Being a damn feminist goes against black consciousness. Because what you're saying is you don't believe in male authority. You can do whatever you want. The man's role ain't important no more because you got money and you have money and an education. So the role of a man doesn't mean anything no more, right? Because you have money and a white man's education. That's indoctrination. That is feminism 100%. None of these brothers address these issues. They pretend like feminism is not a problem. They feel like it doesn't affect the community at all, so much to the point where they say nothing about it. A lot of those women in your chat room are feminists. How come? Listen, if you see these brothers with these platforms, if you correct the behaviors, a lot of those women gonna turn on you. A lot of these Latinos are saying it's racism for us to bring up the historical facts. When I did that video about those Mexicans firebombing those black civilians out there in Canoga Park, you had Mexicans saying it wasn't true, or they made an excuse and said, well, blacks were doing it too, to justify the racism that comes from their people. True story. Instead of them saying, damn, that's messed up, our people were racist, I understand why you make the videos that you make. Instead of them saying that, they chose to deflect by saying blacks do it too, or they'll just say, well, the police were just making it up. These events are not true. You talk about living in denial.
These recognitions feel almost inadequate compared to the scale of the erasure. For almost a century, millions of people learned a false version of their city's history. The story of Los Angeles' founding is really about the power of narrative to shape reality. For more than 100 years, a carefully constructed myth replaced documented historical fact. This matters because history isn't just about the past. It shapes how we see ourselves and imagine the future.
I did a whole stream on San Francisco, y'all. So if you want to see San Francisco, I did it last week. Go look at gentrification in San Francisco and how it affects the black community. I did a whole 3-hour stream about San Francisco about a week ago. So make sure that you go over there and check that out. That's powerful. The live stream that I did yesterday about the Mexican Latino population growing in the South, and now Latinos are the fastest growing population in the southern states like Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, Tennessee, Louisiana, North and South Carolina. Go over there and check out that live stream. I did that live stream yesterday. That live stream should have 50,000 views by now because it was that powerful. There was a lot of knowledge and information shared in that stream that I did yesterday. It was powerful. I had people emailing me. They're like, man, Red, these people got to be hating on you, man, because that information was powerful. And I ain't seen none of them fools talk about how the Latino population is growing in the South. I ain't seen none of these FBA content creators ever touch on the subject like you did. And when I look at the stream and it only has 1,300 views, man, it says a lot about our people. You got a lot of haters, Supreme. I said, I already know, brother. I've been peeping that for a long time. But yeah, man, that live stream that I did yesterday was powerful. Mexicans are the fastest growing group all over the South. When I did a video, listen, I did the stream yesterday. You got over 100,000 Mexican Latinos in the New Orleans area alone now, all across the metro area. There's well over 100,000 plus Mexicans that live in the New Orleans area now, right? They're the fastest growing population in the South. And guess what? The South has always been an FBA stronghold. Well, it's not going to be an FBA stronghold anymore as long as we continue to open these borders, as long as we have anchor babies and birthright citizenship. What's going to happen is the Mexican Latino population will eventually overpopulate blacks in the South. That's exactly what's going to happen within the next 10 years if they don't put a cap on all of these immigrants that's coming over here and dumping these damn babies for birthright citizenship. Who been talking about birthright citizenship and illegal immigration more than me? Who been talking about this issue longer than me? Not really nobody. Nobody you can really think of. I've been talking about this for years, warning my people in the South. If you guys don't catch on and see what's going on, eventually you're going to have an invasion all over the damn South, and you're witnessing it right now. There's an invasion going on in the South with Latino immigrants. It's going on right now as we speak. And guess what? You know what people used to tell me 10 years ago? Oh, Red, that's a California problem. It ain't like that here in the South. I said, if it works in California, eventually they'll try that same nonsense in the South, and they're doing it right now as we speak. Oh, no, man, that's a California thing. Oh, no, man, that's a Texas thing. It's happening in the South right now as we speak. Mexican Latinos are the fastest growing population in the United States, not just in the South.
When we erase the contributions of black families to the founding of other major American cities, we're not just challenging yesterday's story. We're living.
But unfortunately, black people got to wait until something bad happens before they take action. I'm going to say it again. Black people got to wait until something bad happens before they take action. That's the unfortunate reality. Something bad got to happen first before they take action. Half of your founders of Los Angeles were black melanated people. But they don't want to talk about that because a lot of them got that Spanish conquistador history.
How people understand their place in today's world. The families who founded Los Angeles succeeded because they brought the skills, determination, and vision to an untamed frontier. Their story isn't one of triumph, achievement, and community. Actually, their story is one of achievement, triumph, and community building, exactly the kind of history that should inspire rather than be hidden. So, the next time you see that famous LA skyline, or drive down Pico Boulevard, or visit downtown's historic core, remember, the city was built by black hands from day one. And that's just not a footnote in California history. That's the foundation everything else was built on. And that is your story for today, September 4th.
All right, so there you go, man. Hit the like button, man. True story. Man, I'm so sick of these weak-ass simps, man. I don't know what to do, y'all. I'm sick of them. I can't be the only one calling out these simps, man. I can't be the only one calling out these simps, bro. It can't just be me. It can't just be me. We need other brothers that's calling this out as well. I want you to hear this Latino sister right here address how Mexicans got indoctrinated with European ideologies and how they felt like being white would give them more opportunities in this country. Check her out.
I mean, it goes back like all the way back to like the Mexico, because Mexico was colonized twice, first by Spain and then by the United States. And when the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, which then, like, you know, the U.S. stole like half of what the United States is used to be part of Mexico. And as part of the treaty, Mexicans who were now living in that territory were given U.S. citizenship. But at that time in the Congress, there were laws that said that only free white people could be citizens. So here comes Mexicans who are not white, who most of them were not white. I mean, there were some Mexicans that were, you know, Spaniards that were born in Mexico and they were now called Mexicans, who were white. But the majority of the people who were, quote unquote, acquired in that territory were labeled white. And that, I mean, when I go back to it, I'm like, that created such a host of issues because uno se las creyeron, like uno se la creyeron, los que no se la creyeron continually have sought whiteness as a way to advance, as a way of economic mobility, as a way to go back to it. I'm like, that created such a host of issues because uno se las creyeron, like uno se la creyeron.
Mexicans sold it. It wasn't stolen. They sold it. It wasn't stolen. So when Mexican dudes try to talk about, oh, the Africans sold black, yes, they did. But guess what? The Africans had no connection to America. Slavery in Africa was completely different from the slavery that the white man practiced here in America, the United States, to be exact. But see, they refuse to admit that Mexicans sold the land to the white man. They want to say, oh, it was stolen. It was stolen. No, you sold it. You sold it.
That only free white people could be citizens. So here comes Mexicans who are not white, who most of them were not white. I mean, there were some Mexicans that were, you know, Spaniards that were born in Mexico and they were now called Mexicans, who were white. But the majority of the people who were, quote unquote, acquired in that territory were labeled white. And that, I mean, when I go back to it, I'm like, that created such a host of issues because uno se las creyeron, like uno se la creyeron, los que no se la creyeron continually have sought whiteness as a way to advance, as a way of economic mobility, as a way to protect themselves from racism and discrimination. It has never worked out to try to veil ourselves under whiteness, but that's like partly where it comes from. Is all the way back to then, all the way back to Mexicans being an unwanted bounty of war, because the way that the border was drawn and the land that the United States acquired or stole from Mexico was specifically drawn so that they would get the most amount of land with the least amount of Mexicans, because they viewed those Mexicans as a problem.
Like to support the channel. Also, you can do it by way of Patreon, Anchor, the clothes, the shoe shop that is listed in the comment description below. And again, thank you to any and all of you guys who have been here to
what I said was very powerful in the stream, right? But the beta males, the male feminists and the female feminists, they're going to overlook everything that I said and focus on the fact that I criticized the women for being feminists and how the men need to speak up more about how feminism has destroyed Black unity, how feminism has destroyed the relationship between Black men and Black women. So instead of them focusing on the fact that it's true, they're going to write it off as gender war content when we all know it's reality content. It's not gender war content. But that's exactly how they're going to write it. Oh, that's just gender war content. That's what these gang goofy Gilligan's going to say. That's exactly what they're going to call it. The live stream that I did yesterday was very powerful. If you didn't watch that live stream that I did yesterday about how the Latinos and Mexicans are the fastest growing group in the South, you need to take your ass over there and check out that live stream and make sure that you guys hype that live stream. That's one of the most powerful live streams that I did in a minute, the one that I did yesterday. Matter of fact, hold on. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Hold on one second. I'm going to show you guys something else. Yeah, I did that stream yesterday, man. It was very powerful.
Mexicans were not made legally white solely by the 1848 treaty.
See, now he's going to talk about, he's going to give his perspective on how Mexicans became legally white. So when Mexicans say they went through the same thing that we did, no, they didn't. Mexicans fought to be legally white at one particular time. The reason why they fought to be legally white, because they felt like they would have certain protections and they would have more opportunities in this country if they label themselves white in this country. So it's a big argument, and it's crazy that none of them ever talk about that. Well, I'm not going to say none of them. Most of them never talk about how they people fought to be legally white. The LULAC organization fought so that Mexicans can be labeled white in the census because they felt like being white would give them more opportunities.
Mexicans were not made legally white solely by the 1848 Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, and here's why. In areas like Texas, the path to legal whiteness began before the treaty was signed. When Texas wrote its constitution in 1836, it reserved citizenship for free white persons, excluding those of African descent and Indians. For Mexicans like Lorenzo de Zavala living in Texas, this constitution defined their racial reality 12 years before 1848. Even after the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo was signed, it did not ensure that all Mexicans would be defined as legally white. In 1849, California's constitution excluded non-white Mexicans from voting. So for those Mexicans of indigenous or black descent in California, the treaty did not automatically grant them legal whiteness. What actually made Mexicans white is a complicated process that unfolded over time in separate arenas such as naturalization, census enumeration, vital statistics, military service, schooling, and so forth. Be careful with the notion that the 1848 treaty was solely responsible for the legal whiteness of Mexicans, because that historical interpretation is oversimplistic.
See, when I said this to Mexicans, they told me I was lying. When I said that Mexicans fought to be legally white, you know, they told me, no, that's not true. When I said Mexicans fought to be legally white, they looked at me in the face and said, no, 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 that's not true. I said, yes, 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 it's very true. I gave you an example of what the LULAC organization said. The LULAC leaders who were Mexicans said that Mexicans belong to the Caucasian race. And I told you why they said it. Matter of fact, I got another clip right here. I want you to see how, I want you to check this out. Very powerful, powerful information. It's a damn shame that we ain't got more people supporting this platform when I go live. It's a damn shame. Y'all want to listen to these pander bears who pander to black women or who just pander to black people without telling them the whole truth. They'll tell them some of the truth, but they won't tell the whole truth. The same way that Mexicans deny the fact that they fought to be legally white is the same way that a lot of these conscious black men refuse to talk about feminism, and they refuse to admit that feminism destroyed the relationship between the black man and the black woman. Prior to feminism, the black man and the black woman got along together. Birth rates were high. The rates of marriages was high. When a black woman embraced feminism, you seen birth rates go down and abortions go up. When a black woman embraced feminism, you seen birth rates go down and abortions go up. That ain't no coincidence. Feminism is a symptom of white supremacy, and you got all these brothers who claim to be FBA or Pan-African, but they refuse to talk about the real problem, which is feminism. Dr. Umar sit up there and call black women queens all day. This man is 50 plus years old, and he ain't married not one black queen in his life. If Dr. Umar truly felt that black women were queens, he would have a black queen. He would be married to one by now. But Dr. Umar panders to black women by telling them what they need. Well, no, he panders to black women by telling them what they want to hear. He don't tell black women what they need to hear. And Dr. Umar ain't the only pander bear that panders to black women, that tell them things that make them feel good. You got a man that's 50 plus years old that run around calling black women queens, but yet and still he ain't married not one black woman. And you got black people who are dumb enough to listen to that crap. If he felt that black women were queens, surely he would have a black wife right now. You know why? Dr. Umar don't want to marry no black woman. Dr. Umar wants to fornicate with black women, but he don't want to marry a black woman. He panders to black women online by calling them queens, but he doesn't want to marry one of them. He refused to do it. And he's going to make up every excuse for why he's not married to a black woman. So you will say, well, hold on, Dr. Umar, if black women were queens, how come you ain't married one by now?
Like to support the channel. Also, you can do it by way of
and that back row was designated for black.
Dr. Umar is 50 plus years old and he ain't married not one black woman, but he call them queens all day. Now I want you to listen to these Mexicans right here tell you about how, you know, they had white privilege. They could still sit in front of the bus, and they fought to be legally white because they didn't want to be treated like black people. So they said, nah, we're going to be legally white. Let the Negro deal with all that racism. We don't want to deal with that. We're going to fight to be legally white.
And all the things that you've been a part of, what does civil rights mean to you?
To be honest with you, when all this civil rights movement came in with Lyndon Johnson and such, I considered it more as being a benefit to the blacks than to us, because we were already accepted.
So when you did go downtown and there was black and white people intermingling, were the Mexican Americans segregated to where the white people were, or the black people?
To where the white people were.
So you would drink and go through the doors that the white people went through, and white water fountains.
And let's face it, there will always be a problem. There will always be people who look down on you because of your ethnicity. But all you need to do is just look up at them and show them, I'm as good or better than you, you know. But I felt that it was helping them more. And I was very glad to see it.
To know, you said earlier about the white and black water fountains in the, I guess, the main areas right near Lee College. Were you allowed to?
He said, don't hate on other black. How am I hating on other black people? By telling them you can't talk about white supremacy without addressing feminism. How is my content hating on black people when I say if Dr. Umar truly felt that black women were queens, he would have married one by now? That makes perfect sense. But of course, common sense doesn't register to people who don't have common sense. If I tell black men, how you going to talk about white supremacy all day without addressing feminism? If the black woman is the least married, but she files for divorce at the highest rate, that's a major problem. When I told you, you can't have a community if you don't have families. So if the black woman ain't getting married and she's having babies by herself for the most part, then you don't have a black community. You can't have a black community without a black family. But of course, feminist men who think like women, they call the truth hate. The truth can never be considered hate. Are you telling me that I'm lying? When I tell you that the black woman is the least married woman in America, did I lie when I said that? Did I lie when I said that? When I tell you that the black woman files for divorce at the highest rate, am I lying? I'm not lying. I'm telling you the truth. So if the black woman has the lowest rates of marriage, but she files for divorce at the highest rate, that's a major problem. You can't have a community if you don't have families. Tell me, where did I lie? Why don't you tell me where I lied at? I don't give a damn about how you feel about it. Tell me where I lied. And if you can't tell me where I lie, you ain't nothing but a male feminist who's trying your best to avoid the damn truth by ignoring the damn facts. I didn't make up one thing. When you get time right now, go look it up yourself. Who's the least married woman in America? Out of what race? What's the least married woman? It's the black woman. Who files for divorce at the highest rate? The black woman. Who got the highest rate of single motherhood? The black woman. That's a major problem. Let me tell you something. You can't fix a problem by ignoring it. You cannot fix a problem if you're going to sit up there and ignore it. Ignoring the problem don't make it better. Last time I checked, ignoring a sickness only makes it get worse. When you ignore a sickness, it only gets worse with time. It don't get better. So you can choose to ignore everything that I said, but eventually the problem will get worse. It won't get better. It will continue to get worse. The problem is so many of you guys were raised by women, and some of you guys who did have fathers, your father was a feminist. He allowed his woman to run the show. So if you had a daddy who didn't run his household and your mother had the loudest voice in the house, then your daddy was a sucker. Your daddy was a male feminist. You don't fix a problem by ignoring it. How can you fix a problem by ignoring it? And that's exactly what a lot of our conscious brothers are doing. The black woman is the least married woman, but they ignore it and they pretend like it's not a problem. The black community is a damn matriarchy and they ignore it as if it's not a damn problem. You can't fix a problem by ignoring that shit. Well, if we just ignore it, maybe the problem will go away. Man, you dumb if you think that. The doctor tells you if you quit smoking, the doctor tells you if you keep smoking, your lungs gonna collapse. You're not gonna be able to breathe. Well, I'm not gonna pay attention to what the doctor said. I'm just gonna ignore it. I'm gonna ignore it and keep smoking. That's the same mentality. The doctor tells you need to stop eating so much. This is why you're fat and obese. Instead of you taking heed to what the doctor said, you know what you do? You ignored everything that the doctor said because in your mind, you think if you ignore a problem, eventually it'll get better. That is a foolish mentality that a lot of our people have developed over the last few decades. They think if they ignore the problem, eventually it'll just go away. No, it don't work like that.
Drink from the white fountain?
Yes.
Okay.
I was allowed to drink from the white fountain.
Nobody aborts their babies at nobody aborts their babies at the same rate that the black woman does. So how come none of these conscious brothers ever take the time to correct their women and say, sister, before you get pregnant, you need to be in a serious committed relationship to where you and your man are working towards marriage. Or matter of fact, you guys, you might need to be married. But let me say this to you women. If you already got 2 to 3 baby daddies, you can't require that the next man that you get with wife you up. Because if you didn't require marriage from none of the men that impregnated you, why would you think that a man who's not the father of your children will see you as wife material? You're moving ass backwards right there. So my advice is for the younger women. Some of these older women, it's too late for them. They already got 2 and 3 baby daddies. So you can't require that a man marry you before he do anything with you. You done already gave your body up to several men. So you don't have the value to make those type of demands on a man. Your value is gone already. Now, if you a beautiful woman that's young and single and you're childless, you can demand that, hey, I want to be married before I have a child. That makes sense for a woman that's young, beautiful, in her prime. But to all you women that you didn't already had babies by this man and that man, you don't have the value to demand those things. You just don't have the value anymore. That right there is for single, beautiful, childless women that's in their prime. I met a woman who had, listen, I know a woman that got 3 baby daddies and none of her baby daddies married her. You know what she said? She's 37 years old now and she wants to get married. None of your baby daddies married you. Why would some man look at you as wife material now? It doesn't make sense. None of those men that put babies in you married you. And this woman is 37 and she wants to get married. Why would a man marry you? You don't require marriage. You let 3 different men put babies in you and none of them married you. So why would a man who's not the father of your children look at you as wife material? That is backwards. That is ass backwards. You don't have the same value as a childless woman. Though. Let me tell you something, ladies. You don't have the same value as a childless woman. You just don't. How you going to require marriage from a man that's not the father of your children, but you never made it a requirement for the man that got you pregnant to marry you? That is backwards. That is a backwards mentality. This woman is 37 years old and she really thinks that some simp that's not the father of her children will look at her like she's wife material. It's over at that point. That's the equivalent of taking a car that has 200,000 miles on it and saying, I want 2026 prices. I want to sell this vehicle for 2026 prices, even though it has 200,000 miles on it with 4 previous owners. The car has 4 previous owners and it has well over 200,000 miles on it, but you want to sell this vehicle for 2026 prices. That's the equivalent of a woman who got baby daddies, and now she's saying the next man that I be with, he needs to marry me. The hell he should. The hell no, he shouldn't do that. Why would you marry a woman that already gave other men babies and she didn't require marriage from them, but you're not the father of her children, but she's going to demand marriage from you? That is ass backwards. And unfortunately, there's a lot of women who think like that in our community. And these conscious pro-black simps won't say nothing about that problem. They pretend like it's not a problem in the world with that. So much to the point to where they say nothing. Zero. You know how many black women in our community who got multiple baby daddies, and now that they're pushing 40, they say they want to get married, but none of those men that put babies in them married them at all. But they want you. You as a man who's not the father of their children, they want to demand marriage from you. The baby daddy knocked her up, had the woman when she was in her prime, had the woman when she was young. You get her now that she's old with children and she wants to demand marriage from you. You know how many women in our community have that mentality? Several. Way too many of them have that mentality. Where did they get this mentality from? They got it from feminism. Prior to black women embracing feminism, they didn't think like that. Before black women embraced feminism, they didn't think that way, man. Once black women got indoctrinated with feminism, that's when they had that mindset. Oh, I can just have sex with whoever I want, have different baby daddies, and now that I'm pushing 40, I'm going to demand marriage. I want a man who's not the father of my children to wife me up when none of my baby daddies wife me up. Unfortunately, that's the mentality of a lot of women in our community. And I don't give a damn about who gets mad at it because it's the damn truth. You can't prove that I'm lying. So if you can't prove that I'm lying, get the hell out of your feelings. Why Why don't you fix the problem instead of getting mad at me for telling the damn truth? Why don't you tell these women that they can't demand marriage from a man that's not the father of their children? Why don't you teach these women? Matter of fact, it's too late for a lot of these women. What you need to do is educate the young women who ain't single moms and tell them, hey, if you want a man to marry you, you need to get married first before you have all these damn babies. Don't wait until you get in your late 30s as a single mom and then demand marriage. That is ass backwards. It's not going to work for you, baby. You're pushing 40 and now you want to demand marriage as a single mom? That is ass backwards. I'm going to tell you something, ladies. I'm going to be real with you. It's over for a lot of you women who are older because you done made so many bad decisions, so much to the point to where a man ain't going to look at you and see value. He might have sex with you, but he's not going to look at you and see value because you got 2 or 3 baby daddies already. Nobody wants to marry a woman who got babies by other men. You know, a man with options don't want that. Men with options don't want to marry women who got babies by other men. They just don't want that. And if you have money and options, you're not going to do that. So unfortunately, it's too late for a lot of these women because they're damaged beyond repair. They didn't make too many bad decisions. And unfortunately, there's no coming back from that. Now, if you're a young woman that's beautiful, you in your prime, you ain't got no children, you're not promiscuous, you can demand marriage because guess what? You in your prime, you're not bringing babies to the table. You don't have to deal with other men, and you can just deal with this man and you guys can build your family from scratch. Yeah, so my information is for the young women. You can't listen to all you women that's in your 30s and you got baby daddies already. It's too late for a lot of y'all, man. Unfortunately, it's just too late. Unfortunately, a lot of you women are damaged beyond repair. I'm not saying that you can't find a man, but you need to lower your expectations. You need to lower your expectations, especially if you got babies by multiple men and you're over 35 and you're pushing 40 and you're not married. You ain't got no business trying to have high standards when you got multiple baby daddies and you're damn near 40. You're 36 and you're 37 years old. You don't have the value to demand marriage at that point. You just don't. The man that you should have demanded marriage from was the man that got you pregnant, but you didn't require marriage from the man that got you pregnant. Now you want a man who's not the father of your children to wife you up. You want him to see value. You're moving ass backwards, ladies. What we need in the Black community is an etiquette class. Like, this is how you need to be a wife. This is what it requires to be a damn wife. If you want a man to take care of you, don't come to the table with kids from another man. Don't come to the table with a high body count. Don't come with an attitude. You can't be mouthy, combative, and unruly. That's going to disqualify you from being any man's wife. So we need etiquette school in the Black community to teach these women what a man is going to expect from you if you want to. We need etiquette school to teach these women this is what a man is going to expect from you if you want to be a wife. If you can't bring anything, if you can't bring any of these things to the table, you are disqualified. 36, 37, you got kids already by other men, you're disqualified. Argumentative, combative, set in your ways, you're disqualified. It is time for the men to put their foot down and tell these women, if you got this going on and this going on, you're disqualified. The same way when you try to get a job, they're going to tell you, you can't get this job because you're disqualified. You don't have the education to get this job. You don't have the work experience to get this job. It's the same thing when it comes to women getting husbands. A lot of these ladies have disqualified themselves just based on their past and all the baggage they bring to the table. But don't nobody want to talk about that. My message is for the childless women. You women that's in your 30s that got baby daddies already, it's too late for you. You didn't have your chance. You ruined your chances. It's over for you. That's the unfortunate reality that people don't want to talk about. My message is for the childless women that's in their prime. We don't want y'all making the same mistakes as these old women that's in their 30s already. We don't want y'all making the same mistakes that they made. Take heed to the information and maybe you can learn how to be a better woman, and then you will qualify to be wiped up by the type of man that you actually want. But you young women, take heed to the information. Stop listening to these beta male simps that never hold you accountable, and stop listening to these female feminists who are misleading you. I'm gonna get up out of here, man. It's your player partner, King Supreme. I'm gonna get up out of here. Peace, love, and blessings. I'm gone, y'all. I'm out.